Broadcasting from their world headquarters in Texas, it's the Arcade Repair Tips Live Show. The show that discusses arcade repair, restoration, news, and more. Now, here are your hosts, Tim and Jonathan.
Hello everyone and welcome to episode 93 of the Arcade Repair Tips Live Show for November 2024. My name is Jonathan Leung. I'm the producer, director, and editor here at the Arcade Repair Tips video series. And joining me today as always is Mr. Arcade Repair Tips himself, Tim Peterson. Tim, how you doing?
I'm good, John.
I just noticed it's a little dark in here. I'll work on it for next time, hopefully. Tim, I've been working on, we had some random flashes during some of the previous live streams, so I've been working on driver updates and doing all sorts of other stuff. So I will look into better lighting for next time, too. Part of it, Tim, is that it's getting darker earlier.
Right.
So now we're basically 100% in artificial light, whereas before we kind of had some natural light coming through. So, but one of our lights went out over here, and I think that's attributing to some of it. But we'll get better lighting next time. But it doesn't matter. You can still hear us okay, hopefully. And hopefully you're ready for a great show tonight. So we're looking forward to it. Now, Tim, obviously a lot has happened, I think, since you and me got together last in October. We had Halloween. Right. We had an election. And you've done some traveling, correct?
Quite a bit. Yeah, I've been all over the place. So. Okay. Just got back from Oklahoma and Texarkana area. Last week I was in Connecticut, and I'm getting ready in about 3 weeks to go to Boston. I'll be going to Slidell, Louisiana, and Odessa, Texas. So there you go. Big trips coming up.
Sounds good. Well, we do want to remind you guys that if you're watching us live, you can interact with us during the show using the live chat. And Tim, we have Dragon Punch Dave in there, and he says, "How's it going, everyone?" It's going good here. Hopefully we'll have a couple more of you guys chime in as we go through the show. Kind of light tonight, Tim. Of course, last week, if we did it last week, we would have done it on Halloween, right?
Right.
So, and Halloween, Tim, this may have been the biggest Halloween we ever had.
Wow. I was worried about the weather here.
Yeah, I ran out of candy in about an hour and a half.
Wow.
Because what happened was we had that big storm kind of come through in the morning. But in the evening, that cooled everything off. Oh. So it made it perfect for trick-or-treating. It was a little wet on the ground, but other than that, it was very pleasant to be out and trick-or-treating. And I think everybody took advantage of it. So we had a huge crowd, so I took the kids trick-or-treating, had a great time, so everything was good there. Hopefully you had a wonderful Halloween as well. But Tim, we're not really here to discuss Halloween. Right. We're definitely not here to discuss politics, although we may get into a little bit of that in the after show.
Maybe so.
What we're really here for is to discuss arcade repair questions. And so that's what we have this month for you. We've got several that have been sent in to us via our email, via our YouTube comments, and other channels that we use. And so hopefully you will enjoy as we go through this month's questions. So Tim, anything else before we move on?
No, let's get into it.
Okay, well, let's get into the questions for this month. And the first one comes from S. Now, Tim, there's an email address associated with this, but in their name field on our website, they put the letter S.
Okay.
So
simple,
we're just going to...
Short and simple.
That's right. We're just going to call them S for this. So S writes in and says, "Can you use a push button to register free plays? I have recently got 2 redemption ticket arcade games, a Whack-A-Duck and a Big Shot. And I want to make them free play, and it's okay if they're without tickets. That's more than fine. Thanks in advance." Okay, so Tim, we have S here, and he's got redemption games. We should mention that, a Big Shot and a Whack-A-Duck. Are you familiar with either one of these games?
Big Shot. I don't remember Whack-A-Duck. I'm assuming it's some kind of like Whack-A-Mole.
Right, and I did some searching for Whack-A-Duck, and I couldn't find it. I found Wacky Ducks. Okay, but not Whack-A-Duck. But like you said, it could be a kind of bootleg version, I guess, of what we think of like a Whack-A-Mole would be. And so that is possible. But Tim, is it possible, speaking of that, for S to put these 2 games on free play? What about a free play button? That's what they're asking here.
Yeah, so. It's really easy. In fact, we've done it on a couple games before that you couldn't. Of course, you want to go into the settings and see if you can set it up on free play. But sometimes that's just not an option.
Right.
And so one of the quick fixes and easiest things to do is exactly what he said. We would either put a regular push button in, we drill a hole and put it in, or sometimes you can get like a small switch up under the control panel if you don't want to look so obvious. But most people don't care, and what's an extra button, or even up on your control panel you can add a button. And all you're going to do is there's 2 wires that go to your coin switch. And instead of wiring them to the coin switch, they may even be hooked on the micro switch already. You could just take that and put those 2 wires onto the push button wires. And every time you hit it, it's going to think it's tripping a switch. It doesn't know the difference. And it will credit your game for you.
Now, with redemption games, I'd assume most of them probably don't have a free play mode necessarily.
Yeah, most of them probably won't, because who puts a redemption game on free play, right? You want to make money at them.
Yeah, exactly. So there are exceptions to that rule, I'm sure, but it does seem like many redemption games don't have a free play mode, which is where what Tim talked about is very important, making sure we put that free credit button on there, right?
Right.
Okay. Anything else?
And like I said, sometimes people make them obvious because it's in your home.
Right.
Or I can always remember my father-in-law, he would call it a sneaky switch. He's like, I could put a sneaky one in there. I've even seen somebody hook it up to the reject button, and every time you hit the reject button, it triggers switch. So there's some creative ways to do it, but just a simple push button works just fine.
Absolutely, Tim. So let me go ahead and bring up our outline here for S's question. Like Tim mentioned, many redemption games lack a free play mode. In order to get around this, you can install a free play button by wiring up a push button or like a little micro switch button like Tim mentioned to one of the coin switches. Once the button has been wired in, pushing it should credit the game and allow you to play it. We discussed this in our post and video on adding credits to an arcade game and setting it up on free play. We would recommend you check that out for more information. With that said, I did look up Big Shot, Tim, in particular, because I was familiar with Big Shot by Jet Games, and it does have a free play mode setting, which can be accessed through the settings, Tim.
Well, I
put a link to the manual there for S so they can take a look at it and hopefully change it. And that's a screenshot of what the screen looks like. That's actually from the manual, and you'll see it just says free, and right now this one says off. But if you change that to on, then you should be able to get it into free play mode.
Awesome.
So, Tim, anything else for S's questions before we move on?
No, I don't think so. Good luck to him. I'm glad you found that manual for him.
Absolutely. So, S hopefully answers your question. Actually, Tim, I think that came from Moss Distributing.
Okay.
That manual, which Tim is very familiar with.
Right.
So, I think that came from the Moss Distributing website. So,
okay.
So, there you go. But S hopefully answers your question. And good luck getting both those redemption games on free play. The Big Shot you may be able to do through the menus. On the Whack-A-Duck, you may have to do the free play credit button, just depending. So,
I would love to see some pictures of them.
Absolutely.
So if you can follow us up what you did, show us some pictures. I'd love to see what the Whack-A-Duck looks like.
For sure. So, S hopefully answers your question, and good luck with your free credits and free play modes on your redemption games. Well, Tim, it looks like the live chat's picking up a little bit. We got Carlos is here. He says hello and thanks for sharing. We got GeekGlide08 is here. He says hello all. Robbie's here. Says, hey, happy gamers. And Delusionals Arcade is here. He says, hey, it's been a while.
Hey,
welcome all. We're so glad that you're here tonight. And like I said, hopefully you're glad that all of the political commercials are over if you're here in the United States and are enjoying it by celebrating with us.
Or the robocalls.
Or the robocalls. Man, Tim, I got robocalls this year. I usually don't.
I didn't get any. I don't know how I got away from it, but I heard some people say it was just a nightmare, one after the other. They were just kept coming.
I didn't get them until after or up until the last week before the election.
Okay.
That's when I started getting the robocalls. I didn't get any up to that point, but that's when they started to kick in. And Tim, you couldn't even watch football or the baseball game or anything without there being like a million political commercials.
I definitely saw plenty of them.
Yeah, I was about to say. So commercials were all over the place. I think we're all happy now that the election's over. We don't have to watch them anymore. Tim, in the after show, I do want to tease. We will be talking a little bit about the election. Not really winners, but I do want to know how everybody's voting went. If you went and voted, like how was that experience for you? And I do want to know what you did on election night. Like how did you take it all in? Did you just go to bed? Did you watch the results come in? What did you do? So we will be talking about that in the after show. So if you're sick of politics and don't want to talk about that, make sure you just leave after the regular show here once we're done with all the arcade questions. But if you're interested in that, tune into the after show. We'll talk about that just a little bit. Tim, like I said, not really going to be talking winners and losers.
No.
That's not really what we're going to do, but maybe just some of the pomp and circumstance surrounding the election. And if you're from another country, I want to know how your voting process is. I find that super fascinating. So anyway. Okay, I think we're caught up on the live chat, Tim. So let us move on to our next question. And this question is from Derek. And Derek writes, hello, I work for a fire department. We have this old machine and it has worked for years. It hasn't been used for about a year now. I turned it on and I have a white screen. The screen looks like it's sideways also. Magnetic in screen, I know will straighten the screen out. Any thoughts on why the screen is white? Thanks, Derek. So I don't know about like the magnetic in screen stuff that he's talking about. Yeah, exactly. Maybe he's talking, like I said, maybe, I don't know. But he does say it looks sideways. I mean, that's kind of how they're supposed to look, I guess. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So, but Tim, the main problem here is that we have a white screen.
Yeah, it's not getting any video.
Right, we're not getting any video. Now, he said it worked, but it hasn't been used for about a year. So
Right.
we know that's probably been a year since this game has been used. And Tim, he did send us a picture of the white screen. Not that, I don't, you know, that picture at least helps us see what the white screen looks like. It looks like, Tim, that there's just nothing on there. It is just a plain white screen. So what kind of counsel can you give Derek here in order to help him repair this game that's been sitting around for a year at the fire department not being used?
Well, obviously, you're getting power to the monitor because it comes on at all.
Absolutely.
What he didn't tell us is first thing we would say is try to play it.
Yep.
See if it plays blind. I would bet that it does. I think he's just not getting any signal to his monitor whatsoever. But it may not play. It may not play at all because that's usually indication that it'd be really rare that the board just went out after a year if it was working perfect the last time. What does tend to fail over those times, a lot of times, is the power supply.
Sure.
And so I know what you're thinking. So if the power supply goes, it's not going to play blind, but that would at least tell us if it was something wrong with his monitor. But I bet if it doesn't play blind, and it's probably a power supply, but we're always going to start at power. We're going to check the power and make sure. We've got some good videos on those that he can pull up and watch. But I would bet anything that over that time of not being used, the power supply probably is drained and no longer any good.
For sure. Now, Delusional says it would help to know what game it is. So, after exchanging some emails with Derek, we do know that it's an iCade board. Okay. He did not say if it was a 60-in-1 or if it was a 48-in-1 or whatever. He just said iCade board. So we know it's probably a generic multicade of some sort.
I agree.
So that's what we do know there. So I think, Tim, what you said, though, I think would go perfectly well with almost anything, but especially with an iCade board here.
Right.
So let's go ahead and put up the outline scene here so we can discuss it. A white screen like this usually indicates the monitor is not getting a signal from the game board. This could be due to the board not getting the correct voltage, like Tim mentioned. It could also be a wiring issue or a malfunction in the board itself. So let's start off, like Tim mentioned, with the power supply. Let's check that power supply and make sure it's putting out good voltage. See our post and video on checking and replacing a power supply in order to get familiar with the process. And like Tim mentioned on the power supply, that usually does tend to go out. And the good news is that they're not very expensive. In fact, the iCade boards aren't very expensive either. So, I mean, the repairs on this are not going to be too bad as far as the actual cost go. That's something to keep in mind. Now we also mentioned wiring issue and a board malfunction. So let's talk about that for a second. If the board is sending the correct voltage to the game, if the power supply is sending the correct voltage to the game board, then you could have a wiring or board issue. Now, see our post on inspecting an arcade board for sure on that part. But the wiring could be the input wiring that runs from the game board to the monitor. Okay, if something happened to that, if it came disconnected from the chassis for some reason. So, you know, I mean, it could be a lot of things here. So, with that in mind, I think power supply is always the best place to start. In fact, Tim, we have a saying around here, right?
Right. Always start at power.
ASAP, right? So we want to always start at power. Let's see if the board is actually getting good power. And then if it is, then let's go from there. Check the wiring, make sure we're connected properly. And then, of course, inspecting an arcade board for more info. Now, Delusional is saying it could be the 60-in-1. It could be because it does look like it's a vertical game. The other thing, that he did actually send me a picture of the dip switches on the board, and it had the 8-gang dip switches. Which there are versions of the iCade board that have 8 dip switches on them versus 4. Did you know that?
I didn't know that.
Now, the funny thing is that even though it has a gang of 8 dip switches on it, only the first 4 work, and they're exactly the same as the 4-gang switch. So it's very interesting. I don't know why. Maybe it was just they had the parts around for the 8 switch dip switch bank instead of the 4 switch dip switch bank. But the reason why I did that, though, Tim, the reason why I had him send me a picture of the dip switches is because I wanted to know if he could switch it into VGA mode.
Oh, okay.
Okay, because what's another thing that we can do? We could switch the iCade board into VGA mode and then hook up a computer monitor, right? And so that was my thinking as well. We can double check to see if we are actually getting a signal from the board and then going that route. So I failed to put that on here. Sometimes I do the questions and then we do the back and forth with the people as far as replying. So this is just initially what he sent me, but we have exchanged some emails back and forth since. And so I did also recommend that he try to hook up a computer monitor to it just to see, right?
Do you get the sense that this is in the firehouse? Because the way he started off with,
yes.
I'm a fireman.
Yes.
So I think that's cool. And did Derek happen to say where he was from?
He did not.
So Derek, here, if you're listening, I think it would be cool that if you are in a place that we may have a listener, a lot of our guys would know how to work and fix on that. And being a firefighter, I bet they would do it for very reasonable or maybe even free. I would challenge somebody if you're near them. And we always want to support our first responders. And the fact they got a game at the firehouse is cool.
Yep.
So we want to help get it running. So let us know also where you're from. I think in this instance it may really help. Let's say he was from Chicago. We probably have a lot of people in Chicago that could swing by there and help him do a little troubleshooting or something. So anyway, just throwing that out there also.
Yeah, we gave some back and forth with Derek here, but I didn't get a reply back as to whether or not he totally fixed the issue or not. So if you're still looking to try to get it repaired, Derek, I think what Tim mentioned is great. Yeah, I think we have listeners probably wherever you're at. So if you let us know, we could probably refer somebody over to you that could help you out as well. Tim, though, I don't think overall this is going to be a difficult repair, and I do think it's one that Derek could probably handle himself if he's so inclined.
Probably not, but like I said, it's just kind of sad that that it's not working, and they got one that's up there. We got to get it fixed, right?
Absolutely.
Got to fix it.
Fix the game, play the game, Tim. Absolutely. So, Derek, hopefully answers your question, though. Let's go to the power supply first. Let's make sure we're getting good voltage to the board, and then make sure we've got good wiring between the game board and the monitor chassis. All that monitor input wiring needs to be well connected. And then you could have a bad board. You can do inspecting an arcade board. But like we mentioned, the power supply, Tim, you can probably get shipped to you for like $30 or $40. The iCade board, you can probably get shipped to you for $30 or $40. You could literally probably replace the power supply or the iCade board or both for less than $100 and have a working game.
Right.
So, I mean, with that in mind.
It's worth fixing.
Exactly. So, definitely worth fixing. Good luck with it. And if you need any additional help or if you want to get back to us with your location, we'll be glad to take that. And we may even be able to find somebody who could just come out and fix it for you. So, but let us know. Keep us updated and hope to hear back from you soon about some updates on that. So. Okay, Tim, I'm going to come back over to the live chat. Looks like we've got a couple of questions here. Dragon Punch Dave, I'm so glad the political commercials on YouTube are over and done with. Also, no more political text. I was bombarded with those multiple times in the last 3 weeks.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I did not get any text. They don't know my cell phone number, I guess. But,
I was really lucky this year, I guess.
I know people get text. My boss has gotten text before, but I've never gotten the text. So I think that's, that's a little intrusive to me. Is it just
too.
me?
Nah.
Yeah, it's like I don't want to bother with that. Robbie says, does anyone do Laserdisc machine repair? I just got a complete Mach 3, but the player doesn't spin. Was lucky enough to get a Dexter, but would still like to get the Laserdisc player working. That's a great question. I haven't seen too many people who offer Laserdisc repair, and in your situation, we probably would have done exactly what you did and just go ahead and put the Dexter in there. For one, because it does just run better with it. You don't have all the moving parts like you have with a Laserdisc player and things. But I understand trying to keep it original, Tim. Do you know of anybody who does Laserdisc repair?
Not offhand. We used to, but I can't think of anybody. That would be a great KLOV question, probably. But I don't know anybody. If you can find your local area, anybody that used to fix old TVs or old VCRs,
yes,
they're probably going to know something about them.
For sure. Yeah,
I could have some YouTube videos on it too.
Yeah, the problem, Tim, is that with those Laserdisc players, it's not just about the Laserdisc playing. It also has to have the interface, which I think has a serial interface or something that allows the board to control the playback of the Laserdisc, so it knows where to cue and things. And so you also have to make sure that somebody's familiar with the control aspect of it, not just the Laserdisc part of it. So where you may be able to find somebody who can fix the Laserdisc player part, but then not be able to rebuild the interface part that allows it to work with the board. So, that's possible.
Yeah, because you just can't put any Laserdisc player
Correct.
in there.
Yes, you have to have one that has I think it's a serial communication or something like that. I forget the little thing. But you have to have somebody who can fix the interface between the board and the Laserdisc player as well. So.
It's a long answer for no. Sorry. It was
yeah, exactly.
Sorry, I don't know if anybody. If anybody in the chat does, so
yeah,
speak up, please.
Yeah, absolutely. If we could find somebody who is very reliable, very reliable at fixing Laserdisc, it'd be awesome to have somebody on our list to fix those, because that is.
We had a hard time finding somebody to fix them when they were still out for sale.
Correct.
So just think of it that way. It wasn't like a ton of people that worked on them.
Right. You got to remember that they were a rarity. When I was growing up, the only way I ever saw a Laserdisc was in school. The school had purchased one, and I remember the first time we ever saw it, they wheeled it in like science class in middle school, Tim. Okay. And like we were amazed, right? That was
awesome.
Like the coolest thing ever.
I thought it was a record player.
Right. I mean, they're the size of records. They're just, they're just discs instead, right? They're laser based. So. Yeah, I mean, even finding, like Tim mentioned, because of the rarity of them, just in general, I think finding one's going to be hard, or finding somebody to repair them will be hard. You may be able to find a working one. I'm sure somebody out there probably has the knowledge, but it's just going to be a matter of finding them. Maybe the difficult part. So, but let us know if you find somebody. We'd be happy to put them on our list on our resources page,
for
Tim,
sure,
and push as much business as we can to them. So, going to Sony Man 34, Tim. Question on Cockpit Pole Position 2 arcade. The Scores doesn't save, but I don't see a round coin battery to replace. So where's the actual battery? I'd probably have to look at the manual for that.
Isn't that the one that they have to get a high score save kit to? Because I don't know if it actually saves the scores. Maybe. I'm not for sure. I'd have to look at the manual. Like I said, I'm not for sure if it does or not. You would know better than me. The cockpit is pretty rare. It seems like you had to get it.
You had to get a save kit.
You had to get a save kit. But I'm not 100%. It's been a minute.
Right. Yeah, so if they don't save, then what they have for different games, they have the high score save kits that you can install. Usually it involves like an NVRAM style chip that actually has like a flash on it that you can just put on there. And it, basically instead of when the machine shuts off, because it's like basically solid state memory based, it just stays, the data stays on there, so you don't have to worry about it being erased whenever the game powers off. So it may be a game that requires that offhand. Like I said, we can look that up here in a little bit, or if you look at the manual, it would tell you. But it may be a game that requires a high score save kit, and in that case, you'd have to get the kit to do it. Tron does, for sure. I was trying to think of other games that require high score save kits that we've done in the past. Frogger, for sure. Let me see what else. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different games out there. A lot of classic games did not save the high scores, and so anything that's classic that didn't save high score save kits are out there for. So, who's the guy that does all the high score save kits that we like? I forget his name at the moment. I should know that. So, what's his name? He sent us the one for Donkey Kong that we used. But anyway, yes. So you may need a high score save kit on that in order to get them to save whenever you turn off the game. So. Let's see. Delusional says if memory serves, it's the save kit. Yeah, swap some EPROMs and add NVRAM battery. Yeah, exactly. So if it's a save kit, you should be able to get one. I think it's at highscoresaves.com.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah, there's a website where you can get a lot of those save kits. So, just look there. Should be able to find one there. Dragon Punch Dave, the only time I saw Laserdisc was in school. Also, when the teacher rolled the CRT TV in the Laserdisc for an educational movie. Those were the days to look forward to. Yes, so... That's me too. It was science class, Dragon Punch Dave, and they rolled it in, and it was something very naturey and scientific, that we watched them on. But the coolest thing was she could jump to where she wanted the video to go, right? Like a DVD.
Instead of having to whine, sit there and watch it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, that was the coolest thing about it. Once you could auto cue like that, that just changed video forever. And, of course, DVDs now, you could do that as well, and they were smaller. Obviously, there's a reason why DVD caught fire, so... Delusional says Joe at High Score Saves. Yeah. So if you contact Joe at High Score Saves, he probably can find you a high score save kit for your pole position too. So there we go. Tim, I think we're caught up on live chat.
Okay.
I do want to say something real quick. We got a lot of donations last month for the hurricane, Tim.
Right.
We have not been paid for those yet. It takes a while for YouTube to reimburse us from the time that you guys donate to the time we actually get paid. And so I don't think we're going to get that until the end of this month.
Okay.
And so once those funds come into our account, we will be donating those to the Helene hurricane efforts that we discussed in the previous show. So I did want to make that clear that we have not made any donations yet because we have not gotten the money yet from YouTube. But once we receive that money from YouTube, we will be moving that towards hurricane relief. And hopefully, Tim, all those people are doing better now.
And maybe that's a good thing. Like you get the initial funds and everything, and then there's still people that are struggling now. Maybe it'll really give us another push. Or something right at the right time. Whatever it is, somebody's going to get use of it.
Yeah, but I wanted to make that clear. I want to be very transparent about that we have not received the funds for that from YouTube yet, but once we do, those donations will be made. So, okay, Tim, with that out of the way, let us go to Ron. And Ron says, hello, Tim and Jonathan. My son and I really enjoy watching your show. So I guess we can assume Ron is either watching after the fact or right now. So we have an original Atari Missile Command that will turn on and play, but after a few minutes, the monitor will shut off. The game PCB will continue to run as the game's sounds can still be heard. Any idea what can cause this? What are some things I could check or do to fix the issue? Thank you, Ron. Now, Tim, one of our favorite games is Atari Missile Command. Love that game so much. So it sounds like the monitor comes on initially, and then like after a few minutes, just boom, like no monitor. Game still plays, still have gameplay, but we have no monitor after that. So what do you think is going on with Ron's Missile Command?
Well, it's obviously a monitor issue.
Sure.
And it sounds like that after some time it probably has some bad caps or something. After initial startup, his B plus voltage is probably dropping, and it won't display a picture anymore. So that's is a classic case of playing blind.
Sure.
And it just doesn't go blind right away, right?
Right.
Kind of half sees it for a little bit. So if he'll watch our video on that, we really go into some details. But I would start off specifically with a cap kit on this one.
Okay. Now, I would also say a lot of times...
It doesn't hurt to check the power supply.
Right.
Like we said it first. And
right. I mean, anytime you've got kind of voltage drop, I mean, Tim is exactly right. It could be caps as well, but it's usually in the high voltage section of the monitor. So a lot of times it's going to be the same parts that we talk about in our video on troubleshooting games that are playing blind. So you got hot flyback. Tim, I've seen this happen just with cold solder joints, where like the solder joints, when they heat up,
yeah,
then all of a sudden it goes off. We've actually seen that. I think that was in I can't remember what game that was. I've seen that happen before. And so, Tim, you know, one thing Michael always told us was, right, like as soon as you get the chassis out, just touch up all the solder on everything. And so, Ron, it may be to your benefit to start off the repair like that. To just go through and touch up all the solder, especially on the high voltage lines, just to make sure that everything's making a good connection, because we've seen this before where that solder, when it heats up, will expand to the point of basically disconnecting from the traces. And then at that point, you may lose high voltage or whatever the case may be. So definitely want to try that first, I would say, before you do a lot of other things. But like Tim mentioned, caps are never a bad idea, and then high voltage section parts, hot, flyback, things like that, and B plus voltage area is going to be very important for this repair.
Yeah, I would read it and see how it fluctuates.
Absolutely. So, Tim, I'm going to go ahead and put this up here so we can discuss it. So, based on your description, it sounds like a classic case of playing blind, like Tim mentioned, after a few minutes. Usually, this is caused by a monitor issue, but it's possible it could be a game board problem. Start off this repair by checking the monitor first, specifically the high voltage line and section of the monitor. Make sure that the B plus voltage is dialed in properly. So what is the B plus voltage when the picture goes off? If it drops out completely, then we know we have a voltage issue, right?
Right.
So, I mean, that's something to keep in mind, and more than likely that's the case, but you may want to check it just to be sure. If your B plus voltage is low, though, Tim, this can also happen.
Right.
Like, let's say your B plus voltage is just right at the edge of what it takes to display the monitor, and then all of a sudden it runs for a while. Because you get a little bit more drain on parts, B plus voltage drops just below what it needs to run, and then you get the monitor to go off. So make sure that your B plus voltage is dialed in to where it needs to be, maybe turned up just a hair more, just so you can guarantee that you're getting good voltage to the high voltage section of the monitor. And of course, if you let us know the make and model of your chassis, we can give you more troubleshooting specifics. Okay, that's always very important. So if you know the make and monitor, we can definitely give you more advice from there. Now, in the off chance it's not a monitor issue, then it's possible it could be a game board issue, and you can check the power supply when you get the black to see if the voltage drops. So at that point, what we would do is, okay, screen goes black. We check the voltage going to the game board. Is the game board still getting good voltage? If it is, then we may have a game board issue at that point. But Tim, what is it? 85% of the time, this is a monitor issue, right?
Yes.
So definitely want to make sure that our monitor is working 100% properly before we move on to other aspects of the game. Tim, anything else here for Ron before we move on?
I don't think so.
Good. So, Ron, hopefully it gives you some good places to start on this repair. Like we mentioned, though, if you want to get back with us with your make and model of your monitor, we can definitely give you some better troubleshooting advice with that. Otherwise, try some of the things we talked about. Let's touch up some of that solder in the high voltage sections of the monitor especially, and also check the parts on that high voltage line. Make sure all those are operating properly. Check that B plus voltage. Make sure it's dialed in as well. And if you need additional help, please let us know. I'll be glad to help you out further. So. Tim, we got a couple of international viewers here. We got Guto. He's from Brazil.
Nice.
And then we have Messman Live, and he says, "What's up, guys? Nice to see you. Greetings from the Netherlands."
Wow.
And so it's always cool to have you guys on board.
It's really late there.
Yeah, exactly. What time is it where you are? That's really what we want to know. So obviously, I'm here in the Central Time Zone in America.
About 2 a.m. probably.
Yeah, in the Central Time Zone in America right now is 6 p.m. But we want to know where it is, what time it is where you are. So please put that in the live chat as well. We'd love to hear that. So. Always great to have international. And hey, and we talked about in the after show that we're going to be talking about like voting, just voting processes. Curious to see, maybe in the after show, save it for that, but we are curious to know how voting goes where you are.
Right.
Like, what's the process
elections
like?
every year, every 4 years. Do you stand in line? Is it a big deal?
So if you're so inclined, stay till the after show and let us know how you vote. Very curious. So. Okay, Tim, let us move to our next question from Dennis. And Dennis writes, I have a question. I got a 80s Russian attack video game. I need to know how to wire the Power Mogul. It's like 8 single wires, and I have no clue how they go back to the Power Mogul. Now, Tim, this is the inspiration for our title tonight, which is Russian Attack and the Power Mogul.
Okay. I was wondering there, John.
So there we go. So, Tim... I wasn't sure what a Power Mogul was.
I'm sure it's the power supply.
Yeah, so that's what I was assuming too. Now, I have actually swapped a lot of back and forth emails with Dennis. Okay, so we've kind of gotten some things clarified. He sent some pictures, Tim. I'm going to throw those up now so you guys can see it. So you can see here are the wires that he's trying to hook up. Very first picture. Here, the second picture is where he's trying to hook them up to. Okay. The third picture is the board, his game board, in the machine. You can see the harness. And the fourth picture is the cabinet, which kind of plays into, which is a very vital piece of information that I had to think about. I'm glad that he put that on there because it would have, I don't know if I would have gotten it without seeing the Tato logo. Okay. So, as you can see, I mean, at first, he only sent me the first 2 pictures, and I'll have to admit, I was puzzled. I was like, what is this? I have no idea. But when he sent the next 2, I started to figure it out. Okay, so let's see if you can figure it out, Tim. So where can he put these wires? What is all these pictures, and what are we doing here? So.
All right. Well, you're going to have to trace the wires back to the board and see what the values are on their pinouts. And then you can attach some correct pins on the power supply. But that's the kick, right? Does it need a Molex plug to plug in there?
I don't think it does. It sounds like he told me that he had put those wires directly on the pins. So those must be female versions of the male pins on the connector. But the thing about it is that the Tato was what gave it away, because when I saw the Tato, I was like, aha, that is a Tato AAM 60009 power supply. Like, I was like, I get it now. Okay, so that is, so when I saw that, because at first I'm like, I have no idea what that board is, and I have no idea what the wiring is. Right? But when I saw the Tato logo, I'm like, that is a Tato power supply. It took me a minute. But apparently, whatever the operator did, Tim, he left the Tato power supply in there, but rewired it up for the board. Okay, so instead of using a switching power supply...
Which, would have been the easier part.
Well, you say easier, but maybe more cost. Okay,
maybe.
It would have been more cost. But instead of using a switching power supply, like, okay, I'm going to convert this Tato cabinet to a Russian attack, and I'm going to buy a new power supply for it. Instead of doing that, he's like, I've got a perfectly good power supply in there with just a weird connector. So it sounds like what he did was he took the power wires and he put the female Molex connectors on it, and then stuck them on the pins of that connector. That's how... And when he moved the game, Dennis moved the game.
They came out.
They came out.
Easily.
Right. And so when they came out, guess what happened? Game didn't work anymore.
What he really needs to do is buy a Molex pin connector that goes in there. That fits it. And then go ahead and put the pins in the right position. He's going to have to know that, though, and look at the manual to see which pin goes where.
Well, luckily, I found a diagram for him. So I'm just going to go ahead and put it up here. So it does look like your cabinet is using the original AAM 60009 power supply. Okay, who would have thought? To know where these power wires go, you need the diagram on the left, which Tim, you can see here. So the red ones are the plus 5 volts, right? And you can see, like, it has. I know it's hard to see in the picture here, but you can find this diagram online for it. And then you'll also need the Russian Attack game board pinouts, which I also put here in a links down below as well. So trace these wires back to the Russian Attack board and see where their values are using the pinouts. Then you can attach them to the correct pins on the power supply. For example, the plus 5 volts DC is pin 18 on the game board.
Okay.
So there's 2 of them at pin 18, solder and part side, right? And so you can take those wires and you should be able to put those on pins 5 and 6 on either the top or the bottom connector. Okay, you'll see they're both red in the diagram that I have. Those are the plus 5 volts. And so he should be able to put those. Right, exactly. Yeah. He can either put them in the top one or the bottom one, doesn't matter. All of those locations put out plus 5 volts. And then he just has to repeat this process until all of the wires are hooked up. Now, Tim mentioned something that is probably as vital as I didn't mention here, is that it would be really great for you to get the actual connector that goes on there. Right. I'm not saying you have to. I'm just trying to get him going, Tim.
Right.
But the ideal method would be for you to grab some Molex pins and the original connector for the Tato power supply and put those things, put the pins on the wires, put them in the correct positions in the connector, and push it onto that power supply.
Right.
That would be ideal. The other option you could do, of course, is just replace it with a switching power supply.
You can get all that parts from Hap Controls.
Yeah.
Tell them how big and you need a male or a female. And that may be more than you know, but we do have videos on that stuff.
Exactly. So, I mean, that would probably be a better way to handle it, would be to use the connector. Tim, I was just trying to get him going, right? So, it's like we're just trying to get you going in the right direction. So, the idea was to just, okay, let's put it back the way it was, basically. And so, but here's the thing. You move that game again and you put those pins on there, I can almost guarantee you that they're going to fall off again.
Yeah.
So, getting the connector would be the better way. Or, once you get the wires attached, just don't touch the freaking thing. Or, I guess you could always put some heat shrink over it, and then once you put them in the location,
yeah, you could do that.
You could
That's
do
not a
something
bad
like
idea.
that. There's a couple of ways you could get around it, but I think Tim is mentioning the proper way to do things.
Fix it once and forget it.
Right, I'm talking about all of the quick operator fixes.
Right.
So all the stuff I'm doing just to get the game running. So, but yeah, I mean, in this particular case, having the actual connector would be the best way to do it. And Tim mentioned Hap Controls has those, Suzo Hap. Arcade Parts and Repair carries a lot of those connectors as well, Tim. So you could go there as well and get some parts. But there's a lot of different part suppliers who sell that connector that you can use. And so, that's the proper way to do it if you really want to do it. But Tim, I think we gave him enough for him to get the game going.
Yeah.
And I have not heard back from Dennis since I emailed him all this. He said he's going to try it and let me know. So, Dennis, if you get a chance, let us know. I think we got you set up in the right direction here, though. And that should at least get your game running. But like we said, let's splurge for the connector, or even maybe a replacement power supply if you want to. It may be, with shipping for the connector, you may be able to get the power supply. But either way, should get you going. Should get your game going again, and hopefully you can enjoy some Russian Attack and continue to enjoy your arcade game, get it all fixed and working. So, anything else for Dennis, Tim?
No.
Okay, sounds good. So, Dennis, hopefully answers your question. Good luck getting that Russian Attack back up and running. So, Delusional says, ironically, the Tato power supply is one of the most unreliable power supplies out there. It's possible that once you figure out the wiring, it won't work anyway. That is true. Okay, we know this from experience as well. Delusional's Arcade is right. Tato's power supplies are notoriously bad. But here's the thing. It's run for this long, so
that's kind of one of the other things I thought about at this point. I might just put a switcher in there and be easier to hook the wires up to. So
that's what I'm saying. I mean, the connector shipped maybe like $10. You know, because you know how connectors are. It's like $2 for the part, $8 for shipping.
Right.
And so, like for $30, you just get like a $30 or $40, you get a brand new power supply. So I mean, that's more reliable than what you have in there, like Delusional says, and he's absolutely right about that. So, yeah, choice is yours. Go ahead. So on our times here, Messman Live, who's in the Netherlands, says it's 1 a.m.
Okay,
so not too bad.
Thank you.
And Guto says it's 9 p.m. Now, I knew that Brazil kind of lines up with us a little bit. So it's not, it's a little bit more to the east than we are. And so it's only about 3 hours difference, though.
Right, just way south.
Yeah, exactly. Just way south. Correct. So Guto says, what are the common problems I might have with electro-cyan monitors? Are you talking about like electro-home? I don't know. Electro-cyan.
I don't know that monitor.
Yeah, me neither.
All monitors have the same issues, though, unless it's a known problem or cheap made parts.
Right, exactly.
A lot of them have the issues. If you're having a specific issue, let us know, and we'll try to help you with it.
Right. I mean,
they all go bad.
And here's the thing, too. There's different models of monitors in different countries, too. Mm-hmm. And so, like, here, obviously, like, Wells Garner and Electro Home, and, I mean, those were very popular, like, brands that we had. Just overall Sharp. Sanyo. Those were some popular brands here. But in other places, like other countries, there's different CRT brands that were popular. So it could be the Electro-Cyan is more popular in Brazil. I'm not for sure. But, like Tim mentioned, all monitors have pretty much the same kind of problems. It's
Yeah,
either going to
same
be
typical parts.
right,
that
exactly.
Fail.
So I mean, high voltage parts. If it won't come on a lot of times, something in the high voltage section. If you're having like vertical deflection issues, it's going to be in the vertical section of the monitor around the vertical IC and things. So it just depends. So I wouldn't say there's anything common. I mean, anytime that we do cap kits, like we talked about, or anytime we pull a monitor out, we're always going to do touch up on the solder. That's always key, especially with older monitors, just because, man, over time that solder it'll dry out and it'll start to crack, and you won't be making a good connection to your board anymore. And so, like, always checking up on solder, always a good idea, especially with any kind of monitors that were made in the 80s and 90s. Now, 20, 30 years ago, so or more. So, but Delusional says it's 7 p.m. here in New York. So you go. So good stuff, guys. Glad that, like I said, glad for all the international listeners too. It's awesome. Glad for you guys in the States as well. Nothing against y'all either. So
right.
Glad for everybody that's here tonight enjoying the show with us. Hopefully you're enjoying it as well. And Tim, I think this is the last major question we have before we get into our quick question and answer section. This question is from the Closer i4S, and they say, "Can you tell me how to lower the volume? I have a Miss Pac-Man, but I think the board is a replacement board, meaning it was another game before. I really don't know how to turn down the volume. It's too loud." So, Tim, we have the Closer i4S. They have a Miss Pac-Man, but the volume is super loud. Now, they say that the board is a replacement board. I think maybe it was a dedicated game of some sort, and then they changed out the board in it.
Maybe so.
A
picture would have really helped on
right,
this one.
exactly. So I'm not exactly sure what they mean by that, but it could be that just the cabinet itself, it was a dedicated something other, and they put Miss Pac-Man in there just so they could play Miss Pac-Man instead. But Tim, let's just talk about lowering the volume on the game for a second. Now, if we're talking about a traditional Miss Pac-Man board, there is a method for doing that, correct?
Yeah, there's a potentiometer, or kind of looks like a wheel,
Yep.
I guess is a good way to say it. It's usually white, plastic. I've seen them black. And it's right below. There's a big cap and some other things. Your board harness plugs in, and then right below it on the opposite side, I think, is a little wheel. You basically turn it with your thumb. You have to do it with the game going, so be careful. But that's what normally controls the volume.
Right.
Now your game could be a bootleg, or this is where a picture would really help us. So if you need to write back and send us a picture, we can look at it a little deeper. But other than that, it could be a volume knob up in the front of the game. I've seen them everywhere. I've seen them on top of the games. So hopefully there's got to be somewhere. Tracing back from your speaker might help. Mm-hmm. So if you find your speaker, that's where all the noise is coming from, follow them wires and see if they go through a potentiometer or pot or volume knob. That might help also if it's not an original Miss Pac or Pac-Man board.
And if all else fails, install your own, correct?
Right, true.
There we go.
True that.
Okay, well, let me throw this up here real quick, Tim, so we can discuss it. Like Tim mentioned, on the original Pac-Man, Miss Pac-Man game boards, there's usually a volume potentiometer located just below the heatsink in the upper right-hand corner of the PCB. And Tim, I actually have a diagram there.
Yeah, good.
Right, so you see the harness connector plug,
Yeah.
or the harness connector up there, and then you see the little flywheel with the little red square around it there. So adjusting this pot should control the volume. If the pot does not work, check that the value is changing when it is adjusted, right? So, I mean,
Right.
it could be the potentiometer is not working properly. So you can do a measurement on it, make sure that changes when you're actually turning the wheel. That'll tell you whether or not the pot is good. Tim also gave a really great idea that I did not put on here, in that you may want to trace the wires from your speaker back to the main board, because there may be a volume potentiometer or rheostat already in place, so you can turn the volume up and down. But if not, okay, if you have a bootleg board, doesn't have that, or you don't have a volume control, you can always install it, okay? And we have a post and a video on assembling a cocktail cabinet kit that we did for Holland Computers, retroarcade.us. And Tim, they sell that rheostat by itself. And here is the wiring diagram for it. It's super simple. Doesn't take much to wire. Mm-hmm. And we show how to wire it in that video. And Tim, you can find that video on our website. And if you select the sound chapter, it'll take you straight to where we talk about that.
Right.
So you don't even have to watch the rest of the video. I know the video is like a good 20 minutes.
Nice.
So, but if you select the sound chapter, it should take you straight there and show you how to wire it. So, now if all else fails, you can just unplug the speaker. At least that way it won't be blaring you out of house and home every time you play the game. So, you won't have any sound, but, at least until you get that rheostat or the potentiometer installed, it may be a good alternative. Tim, anything else for the Closer i4S before we move on?
I don't think so.
Yeah, so hopefully that answers your question. Hopefully you've got like a standard Mispack board that just has the potentiometer up there.
That'd be easy.
But if not, you always have the option to install something of your own, or hopefully maybe somebody did it in the front of the coin door, like Tim mentioned. There's usually like sometimes a little panel there that has like a little volume control there. But you can always install your own. That's always an option to you. So if you have to go that route, let us know. We can help you out with that as well. I can send you the link to the part, and then we can go from there. So the closer eye for us hopefully answers your question, and good luck getting the volume to turn down on your Miss Pac-Man arcade game. Well, Tim, we've come to the quick question and answer section of the show. Now, this is where I rapid fire 3 questions at Tim, and Tim rapid fires 3 answers back on these questions. Typically, these are a little bit shorter form questions, a little bit shorter than the ones we've already covered tonight. And so, with that in mind, I will go ahead and do these. Oh, before I do, though, YouTube Punk's here.
Okay, hello.
How's it going, YouTube Punk? Thanks for being here. Awesome to have you tonight. So I think we're caught up on the live chat, so I will go ahead and rapid fire these questions to Tim real quick. Here we go, Tim. So, Tamra, looking for someone to repair service my original Rampage and Mortal Kombat 2 arcade games. I live in Green Bay, Wisconsin area. Thanks for your help. So that's the first one. Tamra needs some help with the repair on her Rampage and her Mortal Kombat 2. BWellek says, I want to change my Slot Machine 2007 Pictures Low. I think they mean Pachislo, Tim.
Yeah.
From tokens to quarters. How do I do that?
Okay.
And then the third question, G4715. Where is your video on keys and locks? So, Tim, pretty basic stuff here. Let's take this first one here. So we have Tamra, who's looking for an arcade monitor or arcade repair technician to come out and service her Rampage and her Mortal Kombat 2. Where can she find that information?
Well, we don't know a specific arcade repair technician, but we do know a very good arcade repair arcade game monitor repairman, and that would be Chad at Arcade Cup. And I bet you he probably, if he doesn't do it because he's probably busy repairing monitors, he may know somebody. So contact him through his website.
Okay, the next question is from BWellek. We got the Pachislo machine. I want to convert that from tokens to quarters. How do I do that?
They're going to have to change out the physical mechanism that the coins go through, and they need to go from a token mech into a quarter mech. Now, I do know that you can adjust them, and we have a video on that. You can make them kind of wide open, so it will take either certain mechs will do that. You might could adjust it and make it wider, bigger, and so maybe that would help.
Gotcha. And then we have G4715. What is the video / post that we have as far as locks and doors are concerned?
It's a video on replacing a coin door lock, and that, I guess you were going to include a link to it, right?
I actually didn't include the link, but I should have. I guess I should have. I didn't put it down in there. But yes, it is replacing a coin door lock. Maybe we should call that something different, Tim. But anyway, Tim, I think you hit all 3 of them real quick, so I'll go ahead and we'll just review what you said here. So for Tamra, who has the Rampage and the Mortal Kombat 2 there in Green Bay, a monitor repair technician that we highly recommend, Chad at Arcade Cup, is located in Green Bay. We don't think he does general arcade repair, but he may be able to refer you to someone who does. So definitely contact Chad at arcadecup.com and ask him if he knows someone in your area that may be willing to come out and take a look. BWellek, on most Pachislo machines, it's just a matter of time, or a matter of either adjusting or replacing the coin mag. Tim, there's a nice article here about changing a Pachislo from tokens to quarters.
Nice.
Go to that link. I put it down below in the show notes as well, and you can check it out there. And then G4715, check out our post video on replacing a coin door lock for more information on keys and locks. Now, YouTube Punk says, no link, boo. I don't usually link to stuff that's our stuff. Right. I assume that people know where to find our stuff.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Well, they asked.
Right. I don't know, but still, arcaderepairtips.com, right? Like, do a search for coin lock, and you'll find it, right? Right. So I don't usually link to our stuff. If it's an external link that goes to another website, I'll put it out there. Okay. But for like our stuff, I feel like, okay, if you're watching Arcade Repair Tips, you know how to get probably know where our website is at this point, arcaderepairtips.com. Plus, Tim, we actually have in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen.
Over there.
Yeah, right there.
Down
okay. There. Yes, right there.
Right there.
Yeah. There we go. So if you're watching this or if you're listening to us, you probably know that that's where you need to go to get the stuff from our website. Yeah, and Tim is being very subtle and showing you exactly where it is. So there we go. So I think we covered all that, Tim. Thank you so much for that. And Tamra or BWellek or G4715, if you have any additional questions about any of the questions you asked tonight, please let us know. We'll try to help you out further. Yeah, pictures low, Tim. Pictures low.
Yeah.
I think he heard somebody say Pachislo and translated it as pictures low.
Yeah, whatever.
Right?
We knew what
I understand. I understand. I was like, that's interesting. I don't know if anybody's gotten that off before, but if he wouldn't have said that, I think I would have had a harder time with it.
Yeah,
which is
so
interesting.
too.
So at least Pictures Low actually told us a little something. So
Okay.
Pictures Low or Pachislo, Tim?
Same. All works.
Absolutely. So there we go.
Same result.
Yeah. So hopefully that helps you guys out. Please let us know if you need any additional help. So. Now, Tim, we have some news for this month, and I was just looking through some of it here. I think I'm going to save the pinball talk here for a little bit. Let's do the Prime Deal Days talk real quick. So this was kind of we had a lot of deals from the Prime Deal Days, Tim, this past month.
I remember
and
that.
so some of the neon signs that you see there, kind of LED-based neon signs,
cool.
Tim, those are on sale for around $30 each. They put that Gamba's clone, the 8200 video converter clone, on sale again for about $23.59, I believe. We had some Atari shirts and even a little like mini Atari setup for like $20. And then the soldering kits, Tim, were actually really cheap. They were running like about $8 to $10 on some of those.
Wow.
And people are always asking us like, okay, well, how do you get good at soldering? I've never soldered in my life. I have no idea how to solder. These kits are so cool because not only do they teach you how to solder, you actually build something at the end of it, which is really fun.
And they do have them all the time.
Absolutely.
These are just deals.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
They had several that were on sale between like $8 to $10. Especially the radios, Tim. You know, I mean, I think that's one of people who learn to solder. A lot of times, one of the first things they ever did, electronic-wise, was building a radio, right? And so there's a lot of the radio kits out there. And hey, if you want to still listen to baseball on the radio like I do, man, those are just perfect. For
there
that.
you go.
So you can even do some mods to it and things like that. So. A lot of those kits were on sale. By far, Tim, the greatest deal was the Fluke 107 multimeter that's on the far right, and it was going, I think, for about $83.
Oh, that's cheap.
I mean, if you look it up right now, it's at $117. Just to give you an idea, 83 is about the lowest we've ever seen it. So hopefully some of you guys got in on that deal. I saw several comments on that on Facebook and on Twitter. Tim, that's about the lowest price you're going to find for a Fluke multimeter.
Probably so.
And I know it's still expensive for a lot of people. But $83 for Fluke is good. If you're the kind of person who's just like, I just want a multimeter, you can go out and just get like a $20, $30 multimeter. But if you want the Fluke name, the reliability, and the brand, you can't get much cheaper than $83. So not for like a proper multimeter. So
that's what
hopefully
we use.
Exactly. Hopefully you guys cashed in on that while those deals were available. And Tim, if you missed out, I don't think you have to worry too much because a lot of these deals will probably be coming back for Black Friday here in about 3 weeks.
Yeah.
So
just
keep an eye out.
Be watching our Facebook page because you and Mark do a really good job of finding those deals and putting them out there.
Absolutely. We will find the deals. So if we see any like that, we'll put them out there for you. So stay tuned to our social media feeds for those kind of things. Hopefully you'll find a deal on what you're looking for. So let's see. YouTube Bunk says, was going to suggest Tamra load up the trailer and drive it down to Texas for a special edition of Arcade Repair Tips. I mean, that may be an option. YouTube Punk says the Stern Pinball one looks really dope. I agree. I like that Stern Pinball one. I don't think it was super big as far as the size of it goes, but I mean, if you've got a lot of Stern games in your house, like if you got a lot of pinball machines, I think it's perfect for that, Of all of them, I felt like that one was the coolest.
I have a bad habit of ordering stuff, though, without looking at the size.
Yes.
And I'm getting it in, I'm going, it's a mini. I ordered believe it or not, it was just a refrigerator magnet, but you might remember I took a trip to the place I was born.
Right.
And everywhere I go, my daughter asked for me to bring her a magnet. Well, I forgot. So I looked it up, and I saw this big, beautiful magnet, and I got it in. It was about the size of a postage stamp. I was like, I'm expecting something about the size of your phone. And it was like this big. And I was like, well, here you go. It was fun.
I think that Stern one was
like
12-inch by 12-inch. So, I mean, it's not small. It's a foot by a foot, but it's not big either, right?
But I have learned to check out the sizes on anything just about I order on Amazon.
I remember during the pandemic, one of the podcasts that I listened to, the guy ordered some toilet paper because toilet paper was hard to find right during the pandemic, and he got like this. It looked like a receipt roll of toilet paper.
Hey, in a bind, right?
Exactly. Hey, it worked, right?
Right.
I mean, he paid a ton for it.
I think I've seen they make camping rolls. They're really small. Is probably what it was.
Probably.
Yeah.
So I ordered like a big thing of commercial toilet paper because the commercial toilet paper was all in stock, and I still have some rolls left over from the commercial toilet paper that we had. It's not the softest stuff, but it works in a pinch. So anyway. Dragon Punch Dave, those neon signs are cool. Didn't know. I needed more neon signs. Thanks for sharing. Yeah, and they're LED based. They're not actual neon, but the LEDs are safer, just overall. So
they have that look though.
And exactly. And if they break, it's like you just throw them away. You don't have to worry about gases and all that kind of stuff. So
right.
Let's see. Guto, what do you recommend for setting up a multi-game setup? What do you think about this? So on multi-game setups, really, pretty much if you're going to go vertical, the 16-1's probably the way to go. Game elf boards are not bad. If you want to go with like a horizontal setup, like the Pandora's Box boards are very good.
That's probably what I
And
would
all
choose.
of those are super easy to set up with just a JAMA harness and a monitor and, like I said, and the board. And a lot of those boards even output VGA, so you don't even have to have an arcade board necessarily, or an arcade monitor. You just have to have a VGA monitor of some sort, and you can get those hooked up very easily. So... but as far as multi-game boards go, 16-1s, there's a reason why they're so popular. If you want like all the classic vertical games, I mean, that's pretty much the go-to standard. The Game Elf boards are not bad. Some of the emulation's a little spotty on some of those, but it works good enough in most cases. And then the Pandora's Box boards, I mean, they're pretty solid nowadays. You can get them for a good price on places like AliExpress and things, especially if you're in, that was from Guto, that was from Brazil. So especially if you're in Brazil, like AliExpress may be a good way for you to get some cheap boards your way. Yeah, I mean, and it kind of depends on you, but I mean, a cheap power supply, a cheap multi-game board, and a cheap monitor, and you can put together a halfway decent power arcade cabinet and get some controls, of course. I mean, it doesn't cost a whole lot, not like it used to, for sure. So
No.
Now, if you want to go arcade quality, that's a little different. Then, if you want arcade quality controls, arcade quality LCD, commercial grade arcade quality LCD in there, you're going to pay a little bit more for that, but it just depends on what you want your setup to be. He says, a PC with a JAMA PCB board adapter, a VGA parallel port, and P2 sound, you can definitely go that route. So that's more of a MAME style setup or emulator-based setup. You can do that. It just requires a little bit more software setup, whereas a lot of the multi-game boards, they're plug and play, right?
Right.
I mean, you just plug them in, they work. So,
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of up to you. If you're familiar enough with software setups that setting up a PC, front end, and all that kind of stuff doesn't bother you, then the PC setup is fine. And yeah, you can get the JAMA PCB adapter. Our friends at hollandcomputers.com, they carry those, so if you wanted that. But you can probably find a distributor in Brazil that would do that as well. So, just depending. Let's see. Okay, there we go. Okay, I think we're caught up, Tim.
Okay.
So let's talk about, there were two big pinball announcements over the last month.
Right.
And so let's talk about those real quick, Tim. I think it's very interesting. So this first one was from was Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. And Tim, this was being released by Dutch Pinball Exclusive, which is kind of like an offshoot of Dutch Pinball, not actual Dutch Pinball. Now, Tim, you may remember this game because this was actually a game that John Papaduke was working on for Zidware, which was a company he had founded. Well, Zidware went out of business. Okay. And so Dutch Pinball, or I don't think it was Dutch Pinball, somebody else came in, bought up all the assets, and has teamed with Dutch Pinball to release this game. Okay, so we are actually getting it now. In fact, they already showed it off at Pinball Expo in Chicago, so people have already had a chance to play it. People say it's pretty decent.
Nice.
But it's based on the classic 1865 children's book by Lewis Carroll, The Game Cabinet. Back box Translite artwork package is based on the original line art from the Zidware version that Jeremy Packer did, Zombie Yeti, for you guys who know who Zombie Yeti is. Some modifications have been made to the original compositions, and a rich color palette has been added. And overall, I think it's getting mostly positive reviews. They're not making a ton of these, but Tim, I mean, basically this was a game that was being worked on, never saw the light of day, and is now getting a second chance to actually see the light of day and actually come out. So they're not making a ton of them. I think the number was like 300 maybe. So I mean, it's going to be very exclusive, but for those of you guys who may have been waiting for this game, it gives you an opportunity to actually play it, and maybe we'll get to play one, Tim, when Texas Pinball Festival comes around. We'll get to play it. But I can't say the theme was just really, really interesting to me, but after seeing the animations on the screen and the layout and the gameplay, I'm interested now.
Okay.
So, I mean, I hope at some point we get a chance to have some time with it, because it does seem like a very interesting game for sure. So, now, Tim, this was big news. Okay,
Yeah.
So very few people may get to play Alice in Wonderland, but many people, probably even those, 500, Rexer shows us 500 units of Alice.
Okay.
So 500, I knew it was very exclusive. 500 units of Alice coming out. So some of you guys have probably already played this game, in fact.
Right.
And that is Metallica. They're doing a remaster of Metallica, Tim, on the new platform, the new Stern platform. If you remember, Metallica was on the old school platform initially. The same one that my X-Men is based off on, and several of the, like, kind of what would you say, like 2010 Stern Games was based on.
Right.
And so now they're upgrading the game. Layout's pretty much the same, but they are adding the back animations for the LCD that is there. Whereas before, we were using the dot matrix display. And they're doing some upgrades to Sparky and some other things. But Metallica Remastered will be available as a premium model priced at $9,699 and a limited edition priced at $12,999. And that is limited to 500 units. The new model is also designed by John Borg, who did the original, Tim.
Okay.
And adds a large number of upgrades over the original, including 8 new tracks from Metallica for a total of 22 tracks, an LCD display with new animation package and live concert footage, and a back box light-up feature, expression, lighting inside the cabinet and around the speakers, and much more. So you're going to get those light-up speaker effects,
Nice.
Tim, and some other light-up, I think, light-up railing sides on the cabinet as well. So a lot of cool stuff. Tim, I have to be honest with you, Metallica is probably one of my favorite games to play. I'm not a huge... I'm not a huge Metallica fan. I mean, I
Right.
like some of their music. It's fine. I think
you like the game.
I love the game.
Okay.
Golly, that layout is so much fun. And so I'm so glad of all of the games they decided to remaster, this one's definitely one that deserves it.
Okay.
I feel like sometimes they do remasters and I'm kind of like, yeah, I don't know. The original game I didn't like that much, but, okay, you're remastering it. This one I feel like is definitely one that fits in the category of they should redo it. And with the new technology, I think it's going to be really great. Look forward to doing it. I did not like the new Sparky. He has less personality. It kind of looks like just a skull now.
Uh-huh.
Whereas, Sparky in the original, like, kind of had his tongue hanging out and kind of messed up teeth and kind of a round face. I love that. And so, but maybe there's some cool effects with it that we haven't seen yet. I don't know. But regardless, Tim, this game is fun. So YouTube Punk says Metallica should come with an electric guitar peripheral. Yeah, that'd be awesome. But have you guys played the original Metallica? Because if you haven't, you're missing out. I'm telling you, that game, it is fun. Like, this is one of my favorite games, Tim. Okay. So hopefully I get to play the remastered version, though. Looking forward to it. Tim, I'm just a big fan of John Borg layouts as a whole, typically. I like the way he lays out games. So
what you're saying is if you win the lottery, you might not tell anyone, but there might be a Metallica.
Yeah, exactly. I'll definitely probably have a Metallica. If I won the lottery, I'd probably go AC/DC as well. Right?
Okay,
Gotta have an
right.
AC/DC in here. Tim, I heard somebody talking about Elton John. Have you played Elton John yet?
No.
I have not either. And they said that there's quite a bit of difference between like the low model and like the limited edition model, and that it's fantastic. And so I want to play that one too. I got to get out more.
Yeah. Maybe in my travels I'll get to go to that really cool pinball place in New Jersey or something.
Yeah, exactly. So, for sure. If you're going to be in Chicago anytime soon, you could always drop by the factory.
Maybe so. That'd be cool.
So, okay. Now, Tim, I think we only have one more news story here, but this one is kind of a big one, and I thought maybe about doing an arcade debate, but I felt like there had been so much debate with the politics going on lately exactly, that we didn't need any more. But Tim, this is very interesting, and this comes from the Beacon News in Kansas. And they say Kansas Supreme Court will decide what's just an arcade game and what's a gambling device. Now, Tim, are you familiar with the game Dragon's Ascent?
No.
Okay, so Dragon's Ascent is what this fight is all about. In Dragon's Ascent, players work a joystick and a button to shoot at dragons swarming the screen. The bigger the dragon, the bigger the payout for a kill. Chad Thompson, who's just a guy in the article, has played this game since it came out. He has a strategy to win, but it's the opportunity to win big that concerns state officials, some of whom implied the game is an illegal gambling device. The game's manufacturer, Pace-O-Matic, disagrees and has filed multiple lawsuits demanding clarity in the state law. So let me tell you about Dragon's Ascent for you guys who may not be familiar with it. So, in Dragon's Ascent, you have a little cannon, okay, that you control, okay? And then you're looking at a top-down view of all of these dragons, okay? Like they're different colors and different values and different amounts of money.
Okay.
Every time you shoot your cannon in Dragon's Ascent, it costs you 10 cents.
Okay.
But as you kill dragons, you earn money back.
Okay.
And you can cash out at certain points. And so, so you put your credit card on file with Dragon's Ascent. Now, every time you hit the fire button, 10 cents, 10 cents, 10 cents.
Wow.
Okay, but as you kill dragons, you get money back. So you kill a big dragon, you get $5.
Okay.
You kill a bigger dragon, you get $15.
Right.
Okay. So if you're good, now the dragons that appear on the screen are random. So you don't know which dragons are going to be where or anything like that. Okay. And you can your cannon allows you to do some things like target a specific dragon. So if there's a certain one that you want to target with your shots, you can do that. So that way it kind of helps you. It can give you some help, right? As far as like if you want to target bigger dragons or whatever. So that is the way that Dragon's Ascent works. Okay. What do you think about that, Tim? Is that gambling or is that an arcade game?
Well, that's a tough one,
Isn't
really.
it?
It's
Right.
kind of I could kind of see both ways of it.
For sure. Now,
but
if you watch this guy
skill,
right? If you watch people play who know the game, they know the dragons to target. They know they kind of have an idea of how they don't waste their bullets, right? Like most shooting games, you may just be sitting there hitting.
Right.
They're like, no, you wait until what you want is on the screen, right? And then you go for it, right?
So he kills like a dragon with 1 10-cent shot. He's banking.
Right, exactly. And you can increase your shot size too. So you can do 15 cents a shot, and your shots are bigger.
Okay.
Or 20 cents a shot. I think it goes up to 20 cents a shot, and your shot gets even bigger.
Wow.
Okay. So you can actually increase the amount, like the size of your shots based on the amount you want to pay.
Now I'm interested. Is there YouTube videos on this guy?
There is. Not of him playing it, but there's some YouTube videos out there of people playing it, and so you can watch it. I wanted to get myself familiar with it so I could tell you because the article didn't really go into how it works.
Right.
So you put a credit card on file. Okay. You select how much you want, and you can change how much you want per shot at any time. So let's say that big dragon comes on screen. You're like, I'm going to bump it up to 20 cents so I can make sure I kill him before he runs off the screen, right? So you do that for a little bit, and then you go back to 10 cents later. You can change it at any time. Okay, and you can cash out at any time. So at any time, you can just cash out and take your winnings or whatever, okay? And so you can win money, right? You can win money. So if you, let's say you... I don't know, and I say you put your credit card on file, but I think you have to deposit. Like, I'm going to put $50 in, right, off my credit card.
So you can't. It's not unlimited or something where you just lose your house.
No. You put your credit card on file, and then you do like $50. Okay.
I don't know that it's that.
And then, let's say you end up.
As long as you can put a limit on it, and you're getting to play.
Right.
Well, so they haven't made a decision yet, but they're hearing it.
Yeah, they're hearing it. The Kansas Supreme Court has not made a decision on this. So $50. Let's say you put $50 in. And use it all. It doesn't charge your card again unless you tell it to, right? Like, I want to deposit another 50 or whatever, okay? But let's say you do $50 and you end up making 60.
Right.
Okay, credits you back. So, I mean...
So, is this game all over, or...
Mainly in bars. A lot of bars, okay, is what we've seen it at. And you can see the picture of it there. That is an actual picture of the cabinet, so I'll put that back up here. That's what it looks like. It looks like an arcade game. If you saw it, it has a marquee, it has an LCD screen, it has a joystick, it has all the stuff. There is a buy-in system. YouTube Punk was asking here. So there is a buy-in system. So you do have to you have to tell it how much you want off your credit card every time. Okay, but that's highly addictive, right? You could burn through the $50 and be like, okay, another 50 real quick, right?
Sure.
So, but there is a buy-in system. So, but that is how it works. So it's very interesting, though, Tim.
Interesting concept. Yeah.
So, I mean, what do you think? Is it gambling?
Yeah, kind of, but I think it is. But I mean, I don't know why. I guess because it's not legal in Kansas.
Well, they've been. The thing is that
you have them at the casino? Then
they're legal in Kansas right now. Well, they're in Kansas right now. But they're thinking they're predatory gambling devices and that they may start pulling them out.
Put them in Illinois. There's gambling machines everywhere. Every place I ate at had a one.
Let's see what we got here. Dragon Punch Dave's, I would never link a credit card to a game, period, as
That's
I'm not much of a gambler anyway. Yes, there is a buy-in. So there is a buy-in when you buy in for so much, and then it pays you out. Now, there are places where they don't do the credit card system, where what you would do is you would put the money into the cabinet, and then if you end up making more, it spits out like a receipt that you would take to like a cashier.
Oh, okay.
That would pay you that way. So you don't necessarily have to have a credit card for it.
Interesting.
Okay. I think the credit card makes it easier for people who want to go back and forth.
What about the gameplay itself? Did it look pretty fun to play?
I mean, it looks like any kind of other shooting game, I guess. I mean, you just have a cannon, and
what an interesting concept.
You can have 2 players at once. I think some models have even more than that. And yeah, it's all about just shooting, and trying to kill these dragons and getting money as you kill the dragon. So, like I said, if you know what dragons to go for, the company claims there's a lot of skill involved. Okay? But here's the thing, the dragons that come up on the screen are random. So, maybe it's a matter of just knowing which dragons to go after, right? So, if you spend enough money learning the game and playing the game, eventually you'll get to a point where you know what to go after. And then, at that point, it's more of a skill-based game, right?
Yeah, maybe.
I don't know. So, it's very interesting. YouTube Punk says it sounds like a hybrid casino arcade game, kind of like that. And you guys can go on to YouTube after the show and check out the videos and tell us what you think in the comments below if you're watching this after the fact. How do you we'll just throw it over to the live chat here. Gambling, yes or no? You can just say yes or no. Yes, it's gambling. No, it's not. So, and let us know what you think, and we'll go from there. It sounds like YouTube Punk is definitely leaning towards the yes side of things, that he does think it's a gambling machine.
I feel like it's gambling. But
yeah, I mean, it kind of blurs the line. And another thing is that it looks like an arcade game. It doesn't look like a gambling machine, right? And I think that's one of the things that allowed a lot of people to take advantage, allow them to kind of move into the market quickly. Is like, oh, we're just putting arcade machines.
Well, so did video
bars.
Poker and stuff, right?
Right, exactly.
When it first come out.
But let us know what you guys think in the live chat or even the comments. If you guys, whatever you think it is it a gambling machine? Yes or no? And we'll go from there. We'll talk about it as we continue on.
Interesting, yeah.
So, but Tim, that's the last news, little news nugget that we have for this month. And so I think we're going to go ahead and start wrapping it up here. And we do want to remind you that we still want your arcade related videos. If you want some free advertising for your YouTube channel, we're looking for people to submit short videos, 10 minutes or less, about arcade related topics. Send a link to of your video to questions@arcaderepairtips.com. Our staff will review it. If we like it, we'll use it during one of our live show episodes. Make sure you put a plug in for your channel so people know to find you. We look forward to seeing your submissions. And Tim, we always like to open this door and say that, there's a lot of channels out there that may be just on the edge of monetization, maybe not quite there yet, and you just need maybe a little bit more views, a little bit more subscribers to get over that hump. And you've got arcade related content on your channel. If that's you, then go ahead and send us over one of your videos. We'd be happy to advertise it here on the live show, maybe even in our pre-show stuff before we get started. So it's a great opportunity for you to tell more people about your channel. So. And then, Tim, we have our contact information. We have our general email at questions@arcaderepairtips.com, questions@arcaderepairtips.com. And if you put live show in the subject, you will get it mentioned on the show, but otherwise we'll answer it as we get around to it. Again, it is questions@arcaderepairtips.com. In order to get a hold of us, by far, that's the best way to get a hold of us, guys. If you want your question answered, send it to questions@arcaderepairtips.com via email. We have our YouTube page at youtube.arcaderepairtips.com. Now, those of you guys who are watching live or after the fact know that, but if you're not, you can go to youtube.arcaderepairtips.com to view all of our YouTube videos. And comments from the last live show, we do try to cover on the next episode. We had several from the last live show, Tim. And so we tried to cover those on the next show whenever possible. So if you leave a comment here, we'll try to get to it in episode 94 for you guys. But another thing we need to remind people of is that if you're listening to this on the question and answer podcast audio feed and you want the after show of this episode, you will need to go to our YouTube page at youtube.arcaderepairtips.com, look up episode 93, and then fast forward all the way to the after show part if you want to see that. So again, youtube.arcaderepairtips.com for all the great Arcade Repair Tips videos, including episodes of the live show. And we have our podcast feed that includes live shows, interviews, question and answer podcast, all the other audio content that we produce here. And you can subscribe at iTunes at itunes.arcaderepairtips.com, on Spotify at spotify.arcaderepairtips.com, or on Audible at audible.arcaderepairtips.com, or wherever fine podcasts are aggregated. Of course, we would love for you to also leave a review if you are so inclined. So you can leave a review on iTunes, Spotify, Audible, any of those places. Those reviews will help to get our podcast out to more people. So again, if you want to leave a review on iTunes, Spotify, or Audible, please do that. Or if you just like to subscribe, you can do so on those pages. Again, itunes.arcaderepairtips.com for iTunes, spotify.arcaderepairtips.com for Spotify, and audible.arcaderepairtips.com for Audible. And then we have our social media pages, and Tim mentioned earlier in the show that we have Black Friday coming up, which means there's going to be lots of great arcade-related deals. And if you want to be in on those arcade-related deals, you need to be subscribed to our social media feeds. And our Facebook page is at facebook.arcaderepairtips.com, facebook.arcaderepairtips.com. And we also have our Twitter/X feed at twitter.arcaderepairtips.com. And Tim, I think I'm finally getting used to calling it X.
A little bit. Yeah.
I'm finally getting there. It's taken me a very long time to not call it Twitter, but I think I'm finally to the point where I'm like, okay, it's on X. So there you go. But our URL still remains the same, twitter.arcaderepairtips.com to subscribe to us on Twitter, and facebook.arcaderepairtips.com to subscribe on Facebook. Again, we'll be posting arcade-related deals as the holiday season ramps up, especially with Black Friday coming up. I'm sure there's going to be lots of great deals you'll want to get in on, so make sure you follow our social media feeds. We also want to thank Mark for his contributions and for keeping us entertained on election night, for sure. So, but anyway, good stuff there, guys. Make sure you subscribe and follow us there. Okay, Tim. Well, I think that wraps it up for the regular show. Now, we already mentioned that in the after show here, we're going to be talking about politics. Not so much who won and who lost, but more about how did the voting go for you and what did you do on election night. Those are the kind of things that we're looking to talk about. We'll also be talking about sports teams, TV shows, Halloween and Thanksgiving plans, that kind of, Halloween, what we did, Thanksgiving plans coming up. And then all sorts of other stuff. Tim, I watched one movie and some TV shows, and you watched a movie and maybe some other things as well?
I think so.
Okay, so we'll be talking about that.
It's been a blur.
But if you're done with politics and don't want to hear us talk about it anymore, I totally get that. And this may be your off-ramp. And if that's the case, then we'll see you back here next month for the next live show. But again, we're going to try to stay away from, who's right, who's wrong, and all that kind of stuff. Okay, But anyway, more about like I said, process.
Yeah, we're not going to spike the ball or cry.
Exactly. So there we go. So hopefully you stay tuned for the after show. But if this is your off ramp, we want to thank you guys for being here tonight. Round of applause for the live chat. You guys are always so much fun. And glad to have you guys all here this evening. Tim, this is kind of a later live show because Halloween fell on Thursday.
Right.
Which was the last day of October. So a little bit later this month than what we normally have. But anyway, good stuff there. But we do enjoy it when you guys can join us live. It's always more fun with a live studio audience here. So thank you guys for being here tonight. So the after show comes up in about 5 minutes. So if you want to stay tuned for that, we'd love to have you. But otherwise, if this is your off ramp, again, we want to thank you for being here tonight. Make sure you tune in next month in December, first Thursday night of the month at 5:30 p.m. Central Time. We hope to see you then. And remember, here at Arcade Repair Tips, when we fix the game,
you play the game.
Take care, everybody. We'll see you in the after show here in about 5 minutes, or we'll see you next month for our regular live show. Take care.
Thank you for watching this episode of the Arcade Repair Tips live show. All of our past episodes are available on our website at arcaderepairtips.com or on our YouTube page. This show is intended for entertainment and educational purposes only. Please consult a professional before attempting to repair any coin-operated machines yourself. The preceding program is a Varcade Entertainment production.
And we're back with the after show for episode 93. Hello, everybody. So, as we mentioned in the regular show, we're going to be getting into some kind of off-topic stuff here in the after show like we normally do. Politics will be one of those just because it's kind of, I think, front of everybody's mind. I mean, you just voted on Tuesday, right?
Right.
So, kind of on the front of everybody's mind right now. Tim, do you want to go right into that, or do you want to try to cover some other stuff? Like, what do you want to do?
Well, we can talk about the last month first.
Yeah. So, October, obviously.
You said your Halloween was super busy here.
Yeah, so I mentioned it in the live show. So Halloween here was super busy. We had a rain come through in the morning of Halloween, and it stopped about 11 o'clock probably in the morning. And then it got sunny. And it dried up a lot of the rain, and that night it was very nice. Like, it was around 70 degrees. High 60s, low 70s.
Okay.
And so it was a beautiful night for trick-or-treating, and golly, like I said, we had 400 plus candy bars, 250 Pokemon card packages, and they went in an hour and a half.
Wow.
Okay. So, I mean, here's the problem. I want to buy more than that. I can buy more than that. But the problem is that if it rains, I'm stuck with it.
Right. And then what do you do with
exactly.
it? Right.
So that's the problem with...
you need to buy it in advance.
Right.
But you don't know the weather.
Not too advanced.
Yeah,
see?
right.
And so, like, I bought it literally about, I think, 2 weeks before that, because I did it, and I was like, it doesn't look like it looks like it's gonna be okay, you know. So, and I was even getting nervous because of the rain we had in the morning.
Yeah,
I was like,
heard it was gonna rain.
Right, I'm gonna be stuck
all
with
day.
all this candy and everything, and very fortunately, it did not. And so yeah, but we gave it all out, and then I went before with my kids trick or treating. We gave out all of our candy we gave it out from about, actually it only took about an hour. 6:30 to 7:30 it was gone.
Oh, wow.
And then, so I went from 6 to 6:30, I went trick-or-treating with my kids. 6:30 to 7:30, I handed out all the candy I had and Pokemon cards and things. And then from 7:30 to 8, we went back out and did some more trick-or-treating. And then we were done by 8.
So the kids have a good time?
Oh, they had a blast, yeah. So and the people in our neighborhood are great. Where this corner up here where our street meets another street that runs right in front of a elementary school, that's like the hot corner, right? Like we live on the hot corner. That's why this is the busiest part of our neighborhood. And so it was fun. Great. I want to put out arcade games to play. The problem is that it always rains right before, and it's got to be dry for a couple of days for me to do it. So
one year we drug some arcade games out in the driveway. You remember this?
Yeah.
We had a Dracula pinball, and we had a Wizard of War that we couldn't fix the light. It would just kind of flip out, but it made it great on that night.
Yep.
So kids were coming by, getting candy and playing games. If y'all did anything like that, please let us know. I thought it was kind of fun. I was in Connecticut. Got there Sunday before Halloween. It was about 35 degrees, and I was like, "Oh, this is nice." You know, it was 50 high for the day. On Halloween Day, it actually got as hot as it did here. It was like 76.
Wow.
And they were really complaining. They're like, it feels like summer out here. And I'm like, no, it feels like Texas. And so that was unusually hot for them. And of course, I'm at the hotel. I didn't even see a single trick-or-treater.
Right.
And so, but I enjoyed just reading Facebook posts and kind of keeping up with people here, and that the rain did come through, so that was good.
Yeah. YouTube Bank said, I saw someone put up a comic book spinner rack and let kids take a comic book. Yeah, that's cool.
How cool.
If the kids were dressed in Pokemon costumes, I defaulted to the Pokemon cards. The Pokemon cards were mainly for kids, though, that can't have candy.
Oh, okay.
If they're allergic to peanuts or, other stuff like that. That's why I had the Pokemon cards. And they're, they have these trick-or-treat packs. Just for Halloween.
Nice.
So those are what we had.
Nice.
And so it's an unopened pack of Pokemon cards, had 3 cards inside. And so kids were so excited to get those. So,
nice.
But yeah, I ran out of everything in an hour. I mean, that's
wow.
600 items in an hour.
Wow, yeah.
So, I mean, that's how many trick-or-treaters we get here, guys.
But
so, I mean, we had over 1,000 probably total.
They didn't even ring the doorbell. Just come up.
Oh,
we
always sit out there because it's easier. It's easier. If I had to wait till they ring the doorbell, I would never be sitting down. It's easier to sit down, sit on our little walkway that walks up to our house, sit halfway up there and just hand them out when kids come up.
So what was interesting is my wife is home by herself.
Right.
And she's decided she's not going to do anything that night. So I said, make sure you turned off the porch light.
For sure.
So she shut every light in the house down. Our porch light comes on automatically, so she had to turn it down. Went back to our bedroom, got the dogs up in the bed, And I'm sitting there watching the ring. Still about 5 or 6 kids come by. I mean, our house is pitch black.
Right.
And I thought, wow, do we not follow the rules? You got to have the light on, you know. But anyway,
after I turn off the light, we still had people.
I felt bad.
After we turn off the light, we still had people coming up. I mean, it's like just abide by the rules, guys.
Right.
And here's the thing: if you want to leave your light on, just put a sign. Easiest thing to do: put a sign up that says "out of candy."
Yeah, there you go.
Like I gave it all away. You know, he only had one piece, but he still gave away all your candy. So,
sure.
But yeah, I mean, if you just put an out of candy sign up there, then most of the time they'll leave you alone.
So your kids get plenty of great candy.
Oh, they really did. Yeah.
You get to help them eat it, or
apparently I was the only ones handing out full size candy bars. I think that's why we went so fast this year. In the past, we've had other people who've handed them out, but I guess those other people have moved. So. I try to get the full-size ones every year. I had theater box. I had some theater box ones, too, that I gave out.
Nice.
So, hey, guys, there's one time a year, and have we not said this before? There's one time a year where people come up to your house and ask you for something. Like, make it the best day of the year, right?
Sure.
So, Tim, have you ever heard of the book, The Alexander and the Terrible, Horrible, No Good, Very Bad Day?
I've not heard that.
Okay, it's a book that a lot of people my age were read when they were kids. Well, there's a book in the Alexander series that's called Alexander is Absolutely Positively, I Mean It, Not Going to Move, about his family moving. And in that book, Tim, he talks about Mr. and Mrs. Oberdorfer and how they always gave out the best treats at Halloween. And that book convinced me that people remember who give out the best treats on Halloween.
Right? I can remember.
Yeah.
I remember certain houses.
Yeah, exactly.
Everybody remembers that.
I want to be the guy who's giving out the good treats. That's all I'm saying. So, but no, I mean, make it special for the kids. That's what I would say. Make it special for the kids. Give out the good stuff. And even if you run out, like I did, every kid will remember that, right? So that's good stuff. But Delusionals Arcade says when you run out of trick or treats, that's when you switch to tricks for the rest of the nights. I was listening to another podcast, and he's like, whenever the kids come up and say trick or treat, I say trick.
Yeah.
But they never do it. So, Dragon Punch Day, we didn't have a single trick or treater stop by this year. So
that's strange.
I'm sorry. So next year, Halloween falls on a Friday.
Wow, that'll be busier.
And so for people like Dragon Punch Dave, that I know, because I know some people who live in these neighborhoods that don't get trick-or-treaters. Next year, I will invite whoever wants to come over with their candy to sit on my yard and give out candy in my yard. I promise you will have trick-or-treaters.
You'll get some, yeah.
So, but I know there's a lot of people like Dragon Punch Dave, even in our area, Tim, that don't have a lot of trick-or-treaters where they live. And so what I'm telling you is come to my house, bring your candy with you, and hand it out to the kids. I promise you'll get trick-or-treaters.
So, what did your kids dress up as this year?
So my daughter was Envy from Inside Out 2.
Okay.
Inside Out 2. And my son was the Hulk. Incredible Hulk.
Okay. Nice.
So, So there we go. But it was fun. We had a good time. I just put on a Captain America shirt so I could fit in with Alex. So I could be the Hulk and Captain America. But Deirdre did dress up as Anxiety from Inside Out. So
oh, nice.
Yeah. So Friday Halloween, yes, that's what YouTube Punk says. Friday Halloween next year, Tim. I can't imagine how much I'm going to have to buy in order to do it. Friday Halloween means kids from usually there's about a 2-hour window at our place, 6 to 8 or 7 to 9.
Okay.
It seems like every year it's either one of those windows. This year it was like a 6 to 8, and by 8 everybody was done. On other years, like we start later, like around 7, and then 9 o'clock everybody's done. Next year I have a feeling it's going to be a 6 to 9 window. Yeah. And so like in 3 hours, we're going to have a lot of candy that we're going to need.
That'll be fun.
Hopefully it doesn't rain. I'm hoping for it to be dry. I'm going to drag some arcade games out there finally for a change and let kids play. So we'll see. But it was fun. Had fun. And Tim, you're just stuck in a hotel room. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that was last year. Next year it'll be different.
There you go. So yeah, Friday Halloween.
Next year I'll have my grandbaby and we will be celebrating.
So. Friday Halloween. We gotta go big. Yeah, that's my thing. Gotta go big. Oh, so Alex wants to. My son wants to have his birthday in the game room. You know what that means?
Oh wow!
You gotta clean it up.
When is his birthday?
January 31st.
Oh boy, got some work to do.
Yeah, got some work to do. But yeah. So anyway. Let's see. YouTube Punk says t-shirt costume. That's my speed. Delusionals Arcade. Do you turn away older trick-or-treaters? Never.
Yeah, never.
I have full-grown adults getting candy. Dude, you should have seen the guy with the Robotnik costume. There was a guy that had a full-on Robotnik costume, and his son was dressed like a Shadow.
Very good, huh?
You rock, dude. That was amazing. So I don't turn away anybody. I don't even turn you away if you've come multiple times.
Right.
And I know some of those kids got like 4 and 5 full-size candy bars. I know
Right.
they did. But I don't turn you away. Okay?
Right.
Except unless you're my neighbor across the street. I know you, kid. but everybody else, you can come by multiple times. I'll probably give you candy again. So we don't turn away older kids. We don't turn away adults, even if adults are trick or treating. Look, if you're dressed up and you're trick or treating, I'm gonna give you candy. And even if you come up and you're dressed in a t-shirt and pants and say I'm a football player, I'll probably give you candy. So so if you got a bag and you're saying candy, that's all. That's the requirement, right? So,
Okay.
Anyway, so Halloween out of the way. Any other October things happen?
Boy, if
you?
it did, it was just crazy.
Okay.
Such a crazy month. I can't even think.
Yeah. So it was. I was trying to think of what else we did. I think it's all kind of taken care of now. Thanksgiving plans, Tim. You got any Thanksgiving plans?
Yeah, well, we usually host Thanksgiving at our house, but the thing will be different this year is that Landon has been in the military now for 5 years, and as of 2 days ago, he moved to Fort Worth.
Oh wow!
So
super close.
now he will be. He's come home for Christmas most years, but you had to choose. You want to come home Christmas? You want to come home Thanksgiving? So we're really looking forward to him and his wife, and being there for Thanksgiving this year. So.
Right.
Hopefully, that'll all work out. I know we're already making plans and getting decorations and all kinds of stuff for that. We'll go to see him, and which is also neat now that we can go to Dallas. We're going to go out and eat and stuff, and we have a place to stay.
Nice.
So we have a bedroom. We have a bedroom and an extra bathroom. So, it's weird when your kids grow up and you start becoming the visitor and not and stuff. So I'm going to go in. I'm going to kick my shoes off. I'm going to make a big mess and, leave everything out and leave my dirty plate out. Yeah, stuff like that. Every adult looks forward to this day.
Absolutely. So Thanksgiving for me, so this year we're doing Thanksgiving with my wife's family and my family the weekend before. This will be the first time on Thanksgiving we didn't travel. And we're going to be at home.
Been gone a lot.
Yeah, usually we travel on Thanksgiving. This year we're not. And so I'm looking forward to a Thanksgiving at home. And actually getting to
watch
put out
some movies,
Christmas stuff and things. Yes. So we're going to do Thanksgiving the weekend before with her family and then with my family. And like her mom may come over for Thanksgiving, or we may have other people come over. But we're going to be at home. We haven't been at home in a long time. So I'm looking forward to being at home for Thanksgiving and then just taking it easy for the whole weekend, right?
Very good.
Awesome. So... let's see. Delusionals Arcade, we have punk kids that show up with toddler-sized masks on and street clothes with plastic shopping bags to hold their candy. I've got the same thing. They still get candy.
Yeah.
So, look, man, give everybody candy.
Right.
I mean, if they come to your door and they got a bag, give them candy. Just do it. I understand that. I understand that you're like, oh, aren't you a little too old for trick-or-treating? But, man, what's the harm in giving them candy? They could be out doing a lot worse stuff.
Right.
So.
And they may if you don't give them candy.
Absolutely. So that's for sure. Well, Tim, let's go ahead and transition into what I am calling presidential election post-mortem.
Okay.
Okay, is that a good way to say it?
Yeah.
So PEPM. There we go. So we are going into a presidential election post-mortem. So really what I want to talk about is not really so much the results or who you voted for, but the election experience as a whole here in the United States. So... if you're in the live chat, did you vote? And how was the experience when you went to vote? Did you have any awkward conversations with somebody that was stomping for a candidate? Or how was your voting experience overall when you went? It's kind of what we're looking for. So I'm going to let Tim, real quick though. Delusional says we do Friendsgiving on the Saturday after Thanksgiving. We do Friendsgiving too with the people on our street. So I don't know when that is yet. We're doing a Friendsgiving too. So and also do a Thanksgiving at work. So usually I get 4 or 5
Get
Thanksgiving.
some good meals out of it.
Absolutely. So anyway, okay. Out of Thanksgiving talk for a minute. So Tim, how was your voting experience? Tell me about when you went to vote, how long you waited, any interactions or weird things that happened.
I was really kind of worried about it because I knew I was going to be
Obviously, yeah.
I was going to be out of town.
Right.
And then I ended up, I left, Tuesday I was gone. I was in Oklahoma. So I knew I wasn't going to be here on election day. So, but we wanted to early vote, but even that was hard because a lot of them were closing at 5.
Yeah,
and I couldn't get there.
Right, the first week
the
in
second week.
Right, first week in Texas, all of the early voting locations closed at 5. Starting the weekend of the second
some were
week,
open on Sunday.
Yeah, it started staying up until 7.
So that's what helped us. So we both. Dawn had actually been out of town. She came in and we went on a Saturday. We went about 2:00 in the afternoon, and there was actually, and I thought nobody's going to be here. And we walked up and there was about 20, 30 cars at our voting place at noonday. And I was like, wow, more people here than I thought. When I got there, it was about 10 people in front of us, probably about 10 people or so voting. But it went really fast, and it was no problem, no issues. Got done with that. And I saw a good mixture of people of different races, different ages. It really seemed like a good mix of our population. I think East Texas, and we tend to vote certain ways. I mean, obviously we're kind of a red state, but I really did see a lot of people that, I don't know who their candidate was, and I'm not even going to guess. I'm just saying that I was glad to see some really young people, some really older people, a lot of people from different races and stuff. So it felt like, I was like, wow, I wasn't a pollster, but I would love to have taken a poll. Can you tell me how you did? And I really would have liked to have seen. Another thing when it was interesting, do you ever just kind of feel like when I go in my neighborhood, maybe a certain candidate has a lot of yard signs.
Yep.
And I'm thinking, yeah, I can tell who my neighborhood is voted for. It was real interesting when I went to Connecticut, because Connecticut being a very deep blue state,
Yep.
Which Kamala Harris won pretty easily. But up there, it was like, Trump, Kamala, Trump, Kamala, Trump, Kamala. It was very interesting, and I'm just saying, from a just that standpoint, I was like, wow, this is really how the country is. And let's face it, we're still pretty divided.
Right.
It's not like about half the country was really happy and about half the country was really disappointed the next day. And I get it, because it's like we really still are multi-divided. It's not like, guys, remember when you don't remember this, Jonathan, but when Reagan won, he won like 48 states one time. I mean, it wasn't even
the second time.
Wasn't even close. It's like everybody liked Reagan. I didn't even know what a Republican or a Democrat was, I don't think, at that time.
Sure.
But I remember just liking him. And I liked Ford because I thought he made the cars. And I didn't know the difference. So we had a little mock election in school, and I'm like, well, we drive a Ford truck. I think I'll vote for Ford. So that was my extent of it.
Okay.
But
can I?
go ahead.
I was about to say I was going to read some of the ones over here. Do you have some more to add?
No, go ahead.
Okay. YouTube Punk says about an hour wait in line. It was smooth in South Texas. Dragon Punch Day voting process was painless for me. I went the route of early mail-in. So there you go. That's good.
Oh, okay.
Let's see. Mail-in is the way to go, YouTube Punk says. Delusionals Arcade, I typically take the whole family to vote. We make it an experience to remember. Kids love it. Absolutely. Anything else?
No, I think it's cool that you took your kids.
I did.
I think it's...
Yeah, I did too, yeah.
I'm kind of wondering... I was probably in and out in 15 minutes.
Okay.
And so... But I heard on voting day, some people waited a couple hours.
Yep.
Even here, where there was a lot
of early voting. First day of early voting
was really
was
crazy.
Long lines.
Yeah, and so you would think that with all the early votes, still a lot of people. So whatever your candidate was of your choice, or even some of the local elections or things on the ballot that you want to vote for, thanks everybody. I just think it's cool that we live in a country where people would stand in line and would really wait it out,
For sure.
It almost that makes me feel like I hate for almost to be somebody to win and somebody to lose, because I know there are people passionate on both sides that really care, and like I said, some people waited hours and their candidate didn't win. So but it is what it is. Welcome to America, right? Yep. And I still think we have one of the best systems. Could it be improved? Yes. One thing that I'm pushing for, John, I would really like to get your thoughts on this. I think it should be a national holiday.
I've heard this.
I think that everything should be closed. It should be like Christmas. Maybe Walmart and a grocery store or something open. Really, it should be where everybody, because I know our boss was just like, well, just take off, go whenever you can. But I was out of town. It was almost impossible. So I wish that it was a national holiday where every 4 years you could just take the day off. I wish we could wrap it up a little earlier.
Yeah.
So that
has to do with counting. So some states will allow people to start counting early ballots in the early morning on election day.
Right.
But some will not start counting ballots until after all the polls have closed on election day.
Yeah, and some people won't start until the last person voted if he stood in line.
Yes.
So that's crazy.
It just
and
depends.
Some people still haven't counted the votes. What's wrong with you, Arizona? Arizona, you got like 500 people. What's wrong with you?
But that's why it takes so long to count. It just depends on what state rules
Florida,
are.
Florida has it down.
Different. Right. Well, they had to after
I know they
2000.
actually did. But hey, they fixed it.
Right.
I don't know. I wish there was a better method of it.
I wrote an entire paper in college on hanging chads.
Yeah.
Okay, and on the 2000 election and all that mess. And I mean, it was like 18 pages. I did like a ton of research for it.
So here's the question too: why can't we do it online?
Yeah.
Why can't I go on? I know my social security number. I can give a thumbprint or something, or
do you realize all of your data is out there on the dark web right now because banks can't keep your stuff. Banks can't keep your stuff. Like nobody can keep their stuff.
Yeah, I don't know if
anywhere.
I would trust it either.
That's what I'm
saying. But I'm just like, I don't know.
So the system we have, let's talk about voting machines real quick. The system we have here in East Texas, in our county where me and Tim live, it's a two system. So what happens is that you go to a touchscreen voting machine, you vote, and it prints out a paper ballot.
Right.
You then are supposed to make sure that paper ballot reflects what you put in on the machine, and then you feed that paper ballot into a second machine, and then they compare the two machines to make sure that the ballots match.
Right.
Okay. So the machine you feed your paper ballot into is not connected to the other machines. Okay,
right.
And so what it does both. So basically, you have the touchscreen count and you have the manual paper ballot count. You have both. And so when they close up, they look at both, and if both match and look correct, they take it. If they don't, they manually count the paper ballots.
Ah.
Okay, that's the process we have here.
Okay.
So here, I try to tell people this all the time. When you finish your touchscreen and you get your paper ballot back,
you should read
always check it.
Check it, yeah.
Always check it to make sure that it is correct. And because if it doesn't match what the machine registered, then it's not going to match later on, and they're going to have a big headache on their hands. So I have to recount everything,
right?
Which is a pain. So that's the process we have here. The machines we use. I think that's probably the best way you can do it. I don't know if there's a better way of doing it with machines. I think you need two separate machines counting two separate sets of the vote, right?
And this is what I think too is, I'm kind of glad that we had an answer pretty quick.
Yes.
Whether who you're for or what didn't matter. I don't like it going on for 4 and 5 days.
Right.
I still don't understand why Arizona hadn't counted theirs yet. They got
I'm gonna come. We have Geek Light 08 says Tuesday morning I walked up 15 minutes, so peeps in line, in and out. Total time about an hour. We had a 4-page ballot. Then off for coffee and donuts. Home at 9:30. Easy peasy, he says. Let's see what else we have here. YouTube Punk says he wants a national holiday and ranked choice voting, which is interesting. Ranked choice voting is interesting to me. I think I'd have to look at it before I'd be like, yeah, we should go with that. But I do think it's an interesting concept. Do you know what that is?
No.
So what you do is, like, for president, what you would do if you were voting, let's say Jill Stein was your number 1. Okay, and then Kamala Harris was number 2, and President Trump was number 3. You would rank them. So you would say Jill Stein 1, Kamala Harris 2, Donald Trump 3. And then what they would do is they take the average of the rankings, you see what I'm saying, in order to get who the president is. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's kind of ranked choice. That's in a nutshell. I'm giving you a very basic concept about it. But I've looked at it. I'm curious about it. I think I would have to probably investigate it more before I'd say, let's do it. But I think it's an interesting concept.
Now, I understand that voting is a privilege, right? I mean, it's a right.
It's a right.
Okay. What if we tied it in with your we did elections right after income tax, and everybody had to vote before you sent your income tax? You had to vote.
Yeah. Oh no, you're saying about counting. Dragon Punch Dave says I'm still waiting for my ballot to be counted.
Wow.
So there you go.
And what state is that, Dave?
Yeah, he says I did receive confirmation my ballot was in fact received though. So, and YouTube Punk says voting by homing pigeon. Yeah. So, yes, voting by homing pigeon is probably correct. So, yeah, like Tim mentioned, I think every state they can do every state can do their counting and their voting however they want.
That's kind of the problem to me,
that keeps the system unique. You know, the state should control it. To me, the state should control their individual voting.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I know you might not like it. I think that that's the correct way. So that way, it's the state that's responsible for counting their ballots and taking all of their information. Well, the federal government's not mandating all.
Well, what happened this year, though, what took it out was the lead was so big it doesn't matter if Arizona now. But what if it did?
Right.
We'd all still be sitting here talking about it tonight, looking at our phones.
2000.
Well, they're still voting on senators.
How long did it take in 2000 with Florida and everything else?
Days, a couple of weeks or something. It was crazy. Yeah. I just think that I thought it went a little better this year.
Right.
And to be honest, I don't feel we're gonna have some real talk. And if we offend anybody, I'm sorry. Okay.
Hang on, YouTube Punk says something before you get into that. If you think your first candidate doesn't win, the vote goes to the second candidate, and so on regarding the ranked choice voting. That's how it works like that. You see, so you know, so yeah. I mean, it's
interesting concept.
Yeah. Anyway, continue.
I just want to know. So Trump ended up winning with what was it, 64, 65 million votes, something like that.
You're asking me.
Somebody can look that up and clarify that. I still want to know how Biden got 81 million.
Yeah.
I mean, it looked like there was way more turnout this time. I know it was a lot. That to me, and a little bit of conspiracy theorist in me says, how did he get 81? Like 81 million? The more votes than anybody's ever blown everybody away.
But I mean, here's the thing about 2020. I mean, I can tell you.
I don't know. It just felt like less shenanigans this time. I'll say that.
I mean, 2020. The thing about it was there were a lot of people who were very unhappy with the way that Trump handled COVID.
Yeah, maybe.
And I think a lot of those people voted, and this time I don't think they were as motivated.
Maybe if you could do it online here, like we can in Texas,
right?
We cannot. You can't mail it in, right? Unless you're.
Oh, you can. You can request. You can request, and then they will send you one.
Okay, so it was easier that year, and people was like, "Is he?"
It was easier.
Vote
because they sent out mail-in ballots to they just sent them out.
Send it out and you just mail it back.
Yeah, and Texas has always been the kind of state I believe where you have to request that in order to get it. But there were states that were sending out just one to everybody to make it easy because of the way COVID had affected everything. And so
interesting though. I thought it was pretty interesting, and I was glad it didn't take too long.
Delusional says electoral vote system is flawed for both parties. Nearly everyone hates the EC.
I'll argue because I love the electoral college.
So here's the thing: have you looked at any other countries and the way that their voting systems work?
That's why
hardly any leader is a direct vote, a popular vote in any country. They all have systems that are like the electoral college, which I didn't realize until I started doing research. I was like, really? I thought that most other countries had direct voting. Right, like direct popular vote, like that's got it. But actually, most countries do not. It actually has a electoral system. May not call it that, but something similar, where it's kind of more of a representative vote than it is an actual popular vote.
Right.
And so I thought that was interesting. Why do so many countries have this representative vote versus versus the direct vote? And
because we have had presidents win that didn't have the most votes popularly, but they had the most electoral votes.
But I think
I could see where that.
I think you can make an argument though that we need to overhaul it a bit.
Something.
Yeah.
It needs tweaked.
It needs to be
maybe
tweaked.
Not just thrown out in trash, but I think it needs tweaked.
Agreed. So, because I mean, like I said, pretty much every country has some sort of representative voting for their like nationwide candidates, which is interesting.
But it's kind of why every state gets two senators.
Right.
I think that's great. Vermont's got just as many as Texas. Mm-hmm. So, it matters when those Senate races come up and stuff, and that's what I was really keeping an eye on with the Senate race.
The flaw in the Electoral College, to me, is that why do 5 states basically get to determine who the president is?
Yeah.
That's the flaw. Well, Well,
if it went by popular vote, they definitely would determine.
Well, sure.
They would more than determine.
Right. Yeah, you see, and YouTube Punk said the exact same thing I just said. I don't think it's fair swing states get to decide the winner. Exactly. That's how I feel too. I feel like it's weird that 5 states or 5 or 6 or 7 states get to determine basically who the president is, and none of the rest of us really matter.
Don't you love it? It's like Texas, 1% has reported Trump won.
Yes.
Wait a second. we only got 10,000 votes out there.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff
Right.
I think bothered me a little bit. And then you're like, but then you got Pennsylvania where he's ahead by 300,000 or 400,000. They're waiting on 10,000 votes, but they won't call it.
Right.
I'm like, what are you waiting on? It's
Right.
obvious that there's mathematically.
So, I mean, there's a very good argument out there that the system needs to be tweaked. As far as like throwing it all out, I don't think you need to throw the entire thing out, but the system definitely needs to be tweaked a little bit.
It's interesting. And like I said, I think that most Americans, whether you're Republican, Democrat, Independent, Libertarian, whatever, I think we would all agree. We've all been on both sides. We've been on winning sides, losing sides. It always, at some point, just didn't feel right. You know, it's like, even local elections, I'm like, I don't know. Or, it's weird when you have somebody running as an unopposed. Well, why even bother? It's like, why do we just tell them they won?
So, Delusional makes a good point. Fun fact: electoral voters, voting candidates can change their vote. They can go with the majority of votes. They don't necessarily have to go with like if they're assigned by area. And you'll see that some states divide up their electors.
Yeah, like Nebraska.
Right, exactly. And so maybe a division of electors would be a better system.
Maybe so. Yeah. I like when they talked about how Nebraska did it. I'm like, well, why is it winner take all if a heavy portion of your state
is
voted,
blue or red, right?
Yeah, and voted for that candidate. And your state gets 7, why can't that one candidate get one of the 7?
Exactly.
I think maybe if they divided states into sectors,
and that would be the tweaking that we're talking about. Maybe something to that effect, right?
And maybe that would even be more fair if you take like California, you'd have, if it was equal to, what about, I guess it's just so hard, there's so much that goes into that, but what you don't want Los Angeles controlling. What are they might be a farming bill. Right. They don't care about farming, but you don't want them making a choice for somebody that lives up north that has 3,000 acres.
But right now it's winner take all. So
it's winner take all.
So I mean, I definitely think there's some tweaking that could be done to the system for sure. I don't know if I'm ready to throw the entire thing out necessarily, but I do think tweaking needs to be done.
I would be open, but at what point it's almost hard to whoever's in power. It makes you look bad if you're changing stuff. You know, it's like.
So, let's see. YouTube Punk says, I think that a state with 7 billion people gets represented the same as a state with 10 people. Exactly. And that kind of stuff is where it kind of gets strange, right? Exactly. We need to, like I said, some tweaking may need to be involved. I don't know if anybody's really up for that. That's the problem. And I don't know if there's if Congress would be up for modifying how all that works.
The more I think about it, the more I like our House of Representatives. Mm-hmm. We have a Republican representative in our area, but Austin may have a Democrat. Why don't they get to cast a vote? Yeah. For the people that their area has a vote and they're an elector.
Yeah, exactly.
You vote whether your people voted. And then it's something.
I guess I'll talk about my voting experience. We'll move on from that. I think it's interesting to talk about. But so I went on Saturday morning, the same Saturday that Tim went, except I went at like 9:30 in the morning. And there were literally 2 people in front of me. That's it. Nice. And they had just gotten there because they were just pulling out their ID. Here, where we are in Texas, you have to have your ID to vote. In fact, I think that's state law, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So they're pulling out their ID, and then I pull out my ID, and I brought my kids with me too, like Delusional was saying. So I have a 6-year-old and an 11-year-old. In fact, I think they want to come on the show here in a bit, so you can see them. And they wanted to come with me, so I asked the lady who was running the election, "Is it okay if they come with me?" She said yes, but don't let them vote. And I laughed. But she's like, no, seriously, don't let them touch the screen. Okay. Okay, so I was like, oh.
Okay, well.
Okay, I'm not going to let them touch the screen. So they came in, one on my right, one on my left. I took my ID, gave it to the lady. She looked up my name. She scanned the ID, looked at my name. I signed, and then she gave me my paper ballot. Okay. And so went to the machine. I said, okay, you stand over here. You stand over here. I fed the paper ballot into the machine, and then I showed them, how to vote. Did the touch screen. Okay, here. Did it all. Got to review. Okay, and reviewed it all. Okay, everything looks right. Printed the ballot, stuck it out. Me and the kids said, okay, make sure this is all the names that I did on the touchscreen. Looked at it, looked good. Went over to the manual counter, fed it in, and the lady gave us 3 stickers, 1 for me and 2 for the kids. And we left out the door. It was literally 15 minutes, if that. I mean, It was super fast. And so, but here's the thing: I went to Saturday. That weekend was the only weekend that there was early voting. Because so the week before was when early voting started. Like Tim mentioned, it was like 8 to 5. And then the weekend, it was 8 to 7. Okay, Saturday and Sunday. And then Monday through Friday, it was 8 to 7. And then Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, there was no voting.
Right.
And so that was the only weekend, basically, where you could early vote. And so we did it. It was easy, super easy. No issues.
Yeah, I doubt I'll ever vote on voting day unless I just have to for some reason again.
I don't think I ever have. I don't think I've ever voted on voting day.
Unless it's a national holiday, and then I'll just take off and sleep in.
Yeah, and Delusional says his was 15 minutes tops. So I think it depends on when you go. Tim mentioned the first 3 days of early voting here were crazy. People were saying that there were long lines, a couple hours, hour long, things like that. But it felt like people were really motivated to vote. And they all got out and voted those first 3 days. And after that, I felt like the lines got shorter. My wife went October 30th, the day before Halloween, the Wednesday, and nobody was there, she said.
Oh, nice.
So everybody who was going to early vote already early voted, I guess.
Right.
So, but yeah, so in our county, they released the early vote totals in the morning. I want to say, or not in the, was it in the morning? No, it was right after the polls closed. So right after the polls closed on Election Day, we had the early vote totals on the county website.
Counted them.
They'd already counted them, right. So as soon as the polls closed at 7, I think it was, we got the early vote totals that already showed where everything was. And then later that night, we got the Election Day totals from the county website. I like to keep up with that. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, they counted them fast. I mean, and like I said, there's not a whole lot of manual counting involved unless the physical paper ballot machine doesn't match the touchscreen machines. As long as those match, they're good, so so yeah, it was easy, pretty easy stuff, no problems, anything like that. Okay, so we're moving away from voting. Let's talk about Election Day and how you took in the news. Before I do, Delusional says, I know some knuckleheads that refuse to vote at all. How do you guys feel about that? So I do feel like not voting at all is also exercising your right. Does that make sense?
It is. So
not voting at all means I am not motivated enough to get off my butt and vote for any of these people that are on this ballot. And I get that. It's apathy.
Yes, I'll be honest. That a lot of people think that their vote doesn't matter. It's like it's just going to happen. Whatever's going to happen. I guarantee you, there are people that wish Kamala Harris would have won that feel that way.
Sure.
My vote doesn't matter, but you didn't vote for her.
Right.
And so at least if you voted for her, you can say I tried.
Right.
But not trying. And so I think we're big proponents of people giving it their all and trying. Absolutely. And I tell you what, the fact that she knocked over 2 million doors or something in Pennsylvania, knocked on the doors.
Right.
I'm telling you, that's effort.
Yep.
And now, like I said, whether I liked her or not, I have respect for that. And people say, oh, she ran a horrible campaign. I think she did just about everything she could do in 100 days.
Yep. She didn't have a whole lot of time.
I'll be honest, I was kind of impressed with some of the things she did.
Right. YouTube Punk says he has a friend who didn't vote. So here's the thing.
Yeah.
I think it just shows apathy in the fact that maybe, like I said, I think it's in a way sending a message too, saying I don't agree with any of these candidates, and so I'm not motivated to vote. And that's
sometimes your no vote or not voting is a vote.
Right. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like you can not vote, and I don't think you're lazy or anything like that. I think it's just like I don't care enough about these candidates, or none of these candidates represent my view enough for me to go vote. Right?
All right.
So it's in itself, not voting is kind of a vote.
I don't know. My dad just always instilled to me, if you don't vote, you have a say.
Right.
You can't say. You can't complain, or you can't brag or anything. And so it just stuck with me for years.
But Jeepers Creepers say what I said. Not voting is a right too. Yeah. In Australia, it's mandatory.
That's why
voting is mandatory. They give you off.
Right.
In Australia, but it's mandatory. I've heard now, if somebody's from Australia, and this is incorrect, please let me know. I have a friend, I think I mentioned from high school, that lives there now. And she was telling us this. So, I mean, I hope that her information is correct. But again, she hasn't been there forever. She doesn't know everything. But, like, some countries force you to vote. Like, you have to vote, and, like, they give you 3 days off or whatever it is to do it. Kind of thing, and all this kind of stuff. But here, you have the right not to vote. So if you don't want to vote...
Both parties say they have to get out the vote.
Yeah.
It's almost like, why would you have to? I don't understand. If you're a part of a party and you want a certain candidate to win, if you don't care, you're apathetic, whatever, you feel like one's as worse, as bad as another, a lot of people feel that way, don't vote. Yep. I get it. It doesn't really... I guess it doesn't bother me unless it was one of my kids, probably. Yeah. Then I would be like, why didn't you, because I think it was instilled to me at a young age that it's part of our freedoms and our rights, that not every person, probably even some of the people listening to us, a lot of people don't get the opportunity to vote. Yep. They're just told what to do or who their president is, or they really don't feel like anything matters. It's like we had an election not long ago, and the people were like, "There's no way this guy won."
Somehow Putin always wins.
Yeah, Putin runs wins hands down every time. But I guarantee you, the Russian people probably don't feel like their vote really matters at all. And so I don't think we need. And sometimes there are surprises, and there are close races, especially local, where they win by. Even some of the Senate races, I noticed one they called the one today, and he only won by, it was like 2,000 votes, and out of 4 million cast or something. I'm like, wow, that's close.
Now, YouTube Punk brings up a good point that I've always thought about. He says, my parents always canceled each other's votes out. Okay, that means so you had one that was like Republican, one that was Democrat, right? I find that fascinating, that people can live together and vote for opposite sides and get along pretty well.
My in-laws were like that for like 20 or 30 years. There you go. Now they both vote a certain way. And, but even I think when we look back, I think there's just some clear contrast that there weren't so much way back in the day.
Yeah.
Like some people that were diehard Democrats would probably be Republican now.
Sure.
Some people that were diehard Republicans would be Democrats now.
We saw that in this election, I feel like.
I feel like we did too.
So, you think about Dick Cheney.
Yeah.
It's not like you think as a traditional Republican.
Right.
He was supporting Kamala Harris this time. It just shows you we've seen a lot of this kind of crossing of the paths of the streams a little bit.
Tulsi Gabbard.
Right, somebody who would be traditionally a Democrat.
Right,
sure.
didn't she was like on the chair committee or something, and now she's giving speeches. So I think that, and then you have RFK endorsing Trump and may end up on a cabinet position somewhere. Elon Musk was interesting.
He's
how much impact? It is a good question. How much an impact did Elon Musk and Joe Rogan have?
It's a good question. Here's the thing. I love Elon, just his genius. The guy is a genius. I don't care what you think about politics-wise. The guy is a genius. He is able to, like I said, just make these amazing things. I don't know if you saw, have you seen the Optimus robot?
No.
You should look up the Optimus robot that's made by Tesla. It's like the closest thing we've got to like an actual android that does things for us and things.
Wow.
So it's really awesome. But political wise, he obviously went pretty far right this time, I feel like. But the guy overall, I feel like, is a genius. He's able to do things that I've never seen anybody else do.
Right.
If I have that much money, I hope I do what Elon does and try to further these causes for humanity. I think going to Mars is awesome. I think that doing things in space is great. I think that making these self-autonomous cars that don't even have steering wheels in them is awesome. I love this stuff. But I think it's interesting the way he inserted them into this whole election cycle and then buying Twitter and all this kind of stuff. It's just wild to me. Right. It's wild.
But but some of it's silly too. Then people say, "Well, I'm going to leave the country." Nobody ever leaves. Everybody always says stupid stuff like that. And the fact is, I think if you don't, but that's me. If you don't like something, then what are you doing about it? What are you changing? There's people out there that they could run for Senate, or they could run. You don't like your congressman or whatever, then have you run, or maybe start off in a local election.
Right. Now, YouTube Punk says he disagrees about Musk. The Optimus robots for remote control. That is correct, but still, he's getting there. And he's pushing the envelope on technology, I feel like. Even though some of his stuff is still kind of behind, there's no doubt that he's pushing the envelope on technology.
I don't know if I'm a fan of the Cybertruck.
Okay, well, that's up to you.
But I would definitely drive one. Yeah. If somebody drove up in one, I'd want to see it.
So the Cybertruck, he says, is a flop, lots of recalls. So here's the thing. The people that I know that have actually driven one or ridden one think they're incredible.
Okay.
I have not done either, so I have no opinion of it, and I know it's super expensive. So it's way out of my price range. I would never own one. Even if we got that money that we're talking about, I probably still wouldn't buy one.
You still have more pinballs than
right, exactly. So,
but
the people who own them and the people who have driven them, I've only heard good things about them. As far as from the people who have actually done it. Now, I've heard things online that are different. I've seen videos of panels falling off and stuff like this. But all the people I personally know who either own one or have driven one, love them. So I think it's interesting. He does get billions of subsidies from the government for the electric vehicles. That is correct. Mm-hmm. So, but here's the thing: he's trying. He's pushing the envelope on a lot of technology. I always think that that's cool. And if I had the money like Elon, I wish I was doing that. But I think the whole way, like I said, he bought X and he kind of inserted himself into the election and the free speech stuff is very interesting and weird in a way. So
yeah, like I said, I thought it was a really interesting election and how it all unfolded. You know, we started off a live show after show talking about Joe Biden resigning.
Yep.
Just a couple episodes ago.
That's true.
And, you know, so it's like, you know, I mean, she almost become president without ever receiving a vote before, you know. And so, I mean, to me, though, I think what a great country that somebody like her could get that many votes in that short a time and run a campaign and do as well as she did. Mm-hmm. I think in a lot of places they would have just said, this woman has no experience, what are we doing? I don't think it would have been so close, but I think a lot of it was anti-Trump vote, but at the same time, I still think we live in a great country where somebody like her could have been the president, really close to being president. I still think that's awesome that she had a legit. Some people would say that she didn't have a chance, but I think she really had a shot. I mean, there were a lot of people, including myself, watching the TV till late at night. If the roles would have been reversed, I don't think I would have been shocked. I would have been like, well, you know, the Northeast voted blue like they do, you know, or whatever. It would not have surprised me.
Right.
Now, did I kind of have an inkling or kind of think, well, Trump's probably going to pull this off because I thought a little disarray, you know, with the Democratic Party and having to put a candidate forward and stuff. So I kind of felt like he would win, but it wouldn't have been surprising to me at all because everywhere I go, I just see how divided. I think that's the troubling part to
Delusional, Delusional has a good point that I've thought about too. Technically, she could still become president if Biden keels over. I thought about that. Biden could just resign and she could be the 47th president of the United States right now. So.
And I thought about that as a gesture.
Yeah.
What does it matter?
Right.
And he could still say she was the first female president.
That's exactly correct.
and honestly, is he doing anything right now? Anyway, I don't know. You know. Right. So I thought about that. I thought that would be. It would almost be kind of. I wouldn't say fun, but maybe kind of interesting if he just for nothing else.
Right.
Let's just. You know, I'm going to go ahead and retire. She's president now, and here we go. Give her a few days.
Yeah, YouTube Punk is talking about like Twitter and X, and like there are bots now, but I have found myself using it probably about as much as I used it before. I still keep track of news on X, and there were a lot of bots there before. You know, there's always been bots with X or Twitter or whatever you want to call it. I mean, it's kind of like, but I don't know if when he bought it, I think the only thing he did basically was just kill some of the algorithmic stuff. Yeah. And I think that's really what happened. And so he kind of opened it up just to everybody, which means that bots are going to run wild too. Mm-hmm. I understand that. But overall, I think it's been just as good as every other social media app I use. I mean, I
saw an app today, and it was for kids, or anybody could use it, but they were showing kids. They could show George Washington, and you could say, hey, George, tell me about when you were a little boy. And it looks like he's talking to them and interacting to what they said. It's an AI deal.
Right.
You could also have a thing of potato salad and say, hey, potato salad, what's in your ingredients? And it would talk to you, you know. Right. So I don't know. Man, it's going to be an interesting, I feel like we're in an interesting time. For sure. To be alive and to see some of this stuff unfold.
Mm-hmm. So, but yeah, it's interesting. I want to pivot real quick to election night. So for those of you guys who may have... Delusional mentioned Reddit. I also use Reddit a lot, and I do like Reddit. I use Reddit and X. Those are my two primary like news sources, I guess you could say. I do like Reddit is strictly moderated, but sometimes I like the freeness too of X for people to throw stuff up there as well. But I do like Reddit. Reddit's one of my favorite websites on the web. So we use Reddit for so much. But yeah, it's interesting with all that. I do want to pivot though to election night. Did you guys actually watch the results coming in? And if you did, how did you do that? So, and me and Tim were talking some of the night on our private chat with Mark until he went to bed. He went to bed. He wakes up early. But yeah, we were talking a little bit. So Tim, I was watching 4 different news sources.
Yeah.
Okay, and I was flipping between 4 different ones because I have a 4-tuner setup. So I had ABC, NBC, Fox, the local Fox, and then I had News Nation. Those were like the 4 that I was watching news on, and I was flipping between them, and I found myself migrating to News Nation most. And if you never heard of News Nation, News Nation, it touts itself as very unbiased, right?
Right.
And I will tell you,
watch it sometimes.
Yeah, I will tell you this though about News Nation. They made calls. They were right about first. They were right about every single call.
Right, and they made them early.
And they made them early.
Way early.
I don't know who was running the decision desk, which they said was separate from their news organization. Like they said they had split their decision desk from the news anchor part. I don't know who was running their decision desk, but those people must have mathematical degrees to the nth degree because every call they made was right, and they made them first. So I will tell you that going forward, if it comes to election coverage, I'm sticking with News Nation. And Chris Cuomo was the main anchor on there. And did most of that, and he did a good job. And so like I said, I was surprised the News Nation came out before every other news source and called states so quickly and had it so right. I was for sure, they called Pennsylvania before anybody else, and I was for sure that they were gonna have to renege on that. I just felt like that's early.
Too close to call.
Too close, right. And every other network was saying too close to call.
Have they called Arizona because they can't figure it out?
Right, exactly. But they called Pennsylvania for Trump, and when they did, I was like, they're not done yet. There's no way they're going to get this call right, and they got it freaking right. I don't know how they did it. They obviously have some good algorithms that were guiding them and things, but congrats to News Nation and the decision desk there, because those people know what they're talking about.
Maybe
I am, like I said, and I watch News Nation from time to time anyway. That's kind of probably for now cable.
I like it because it has some good fights on there.
Yeah, for cable,
I miss those Hannity and Combs days and stuff. It was
for cable news, that's kind of my go-to. I watch a lot of local. But for cable news, I feel like News Nation's probably my go-to because I want things to be as unbiased as possible. Now, did you know that Amazon had an election night coverage with Brian Williams and Shepard Smith?
That. No?
Yes, they did. I did not watch any of that. I was super curious about that because it's like, how does a non-news organization like Amazon put together a news organization, for one night or whatever it was?
Well, you didn't have to worry about watching no matter what. The hotel was like every channel.
Oh, yeah, exactly. You got coverage everywhere.
Yeah, it was good coverage of it.
Yeah, so ABC, NBC, did fine jobs. And local Fox. Our local Fox, they were on Fox News channel style for a while, and then at 9:00 they pivoted to local races, which is mainly the reason I was watching Fox, was to get the local stuff. And so it was good coverage there, no problem. ABC, NBC, I thought the coverage overall was fine, but big props to News Nation for being able to call everything before everybody else and being right about it. Goodness, so it was very impressive.
We need to see their sports odds.
I was about to say, whoever's doing math for them knows how to do math, apparently. Because they were able to do calculations that people weren't able to do.
I want to bring that up. This is a question to you and to the chat room. Did anybody bet on the election? Did you see Robinhood?
Yes, Robinhood allowed you to bet.
Yeah, and so it was like, wow, this is really different, so...
let's see what we had here. Delusional says, I was at work all night on election day, airing the results to everyone. Let's see. YouTube Punk says Adele BC is where we should be getting our news. I'm not sure what that is. So, and YouTube Punk says there's a lot of bots on Reddit now, and there are, yeah. There's as many bots on Reddit as there is on X for sure. Some of the subreddits that I'm in definitely see a lot of that kind of stuff. But News Nation is probably now my go-to, like I said, for cable news. If you guys don't, and they bring on just as many Republicans as they do Democrats, and I appreciate that.
Right.
So, that's really what it comes down to. And it's run by the same company that runs our local NBC station. It's not Tegna. It's I forget the name of it. Anyway,
so Trump is not going to have to worry about being reelected,
right?
So how unhinged will he be at CNN and everybody forward? If he doesn't care now,
to be honest with you, and you mentioned CNN. I didn't watch much CNN. Usually, I watch a little bit of CNN. I
watched a little. I like to watch a little bit of everything.
Yeah, I'll turn it over to CNN or Fox News Channel or MSNBC. I'll turn it to some of those, but I don't know. I stuck with the major 3: NBC, ABC, NBC, and Fox, and then News Nation for my cable stuff. So but like I said, that paid off because News Nation was covering stuff like I said, left and right. They did a good job.
Yeah,
So,
they were ahead of everybody.
Yeah. Sinclair Media, yes, I think Sinclair Media. Thank you, YouTube Punk. Sinclair Media owns News Nation, and like I said, I felt like they were fair across the board. They did a good job of analysis and everything. I do feel like ABC did really good on the Pennsylvania county breakdown. Like they had all of the numbers from from 2020, 2016, and they were really digging into that Pennsylvania map, like on ABC, trying to figure out where the votes were, which I thought was very interesting. We didn't get that kind of detail in News Nation, so I liked it when I flipped it over there. I was getting a little bit more detail about individual counties there. So
I just did you see, it wasn't a blooper, it was at ABC where they were going, now we're going to look at all the states that Kamala actually did, or every county that Kamala actually did better than Joe Biden.
I think that was CNN.
CNN, yeah. And it just is blank, and the guy goes, is something wrong with it or something? The guy's like, no, that's
I saw that. Right, I saw that after the fact.
I thought they were being funny for a minute. And I'm like, I think he was really shocked.
Yeah,
he thought he was going to come up with something.
Oh, and I love all the tech on all of the channels, so they can touch the screens and everything.
Yeah, that's cool.
I'm a big Steve Kornacki fan, who's on NBC, so he's always up there touching the screens and everything like that. It's awesome. So. How
much practice do they have to do to be?
I know.
They're good at it too.
Yeah.
I was like, that's kind of cool.
Yeah. So, but MSNBC is fine and CNN is fine. I just didn't tune in. I when it came to cable, I was on News Nation. That was it. I stayed on the major networks for everything else. So, and like I said, our local Fox affiliate did really good. Did really good with the local races. They were at a lot of the local and we
had some
things.
really pretty interesting local things, and I know there's some stuff on the ballot. That's another reason why I vote. It's not just the presidential race. There's so much locally that does affect me, that really affects me every day. I want to make sure that my vote is heard.
Mm-hmm. So, YouTube Punk says, you see that Onion segment where they zoomed into the house? I did not see that. So
I heard about that one.
Minority Report voting GUIs. There we go. That would be very interesting. So, but no, I mean, I thought the coverage on all the networks was great. I think most of the networks did really good.
Yeah, you had no excuse if you
right. I think exactly. I think I totally get the reluctancy to call. Because remember, in the past, some of these networks have called states and had to recall. I thought for sure News Nation was going to have to recall one. They were going so fast through things. I was like, they are going to.
And others were like, "Come on, call it. Georgia's been done. They're long done." And it's like, I understand, but that shows how far we've come,
right?
And it's how much it is involved. And I saw some posts were coming on Facebook. People were like, so just won, blah, blah, blah. Next thing you know, I'm like, oh, it's on the TV now, So the way we get our news is... Now,
I was on X, too. I was on Reddit. I mean, while I was flipping channels, I had, my non-traditional news stuff up, I guess you could say, social media things.
So when you're saying you're watching, but we're talking about cable, is legacy media just about dead? I mean, back in the day, you're watching Dan Rather and... No. Walter Cronkite.
I bet the ratings for election night were huge for ABC, NBC, and Fox, and maybe even CBS. I didn't turn over to CBS, but maybe even for CBS. So I wouldn't be surprised, because I mean it's almost like a Super Bowl style event. I think, like you said, if you turn on the TV, you're probably seeing election results, whatever you're watching. So, but yeah, I mean, why would Amazon invest all that money in an election night coverage if there wasn't
some viewers?
If there weren't viewers there to grab.
So I guess everybody was watching some sort of fashion of it,
or listening on the radio, or keeping up with it on X or Reddit.
My friend from Germany was messaging me. Yeah. They were watching.
Other countries are watching.
Germany had already made the call. Yeah. I was like, wow, they already were preparing.
Yeah. So let's see, Delusionals Arcade. Would you guys have been upset if Harris won? I mean, either way. I mean, I think
upset.
I mean, there wasn't any. As far as Trump or Harris go, I mean, to me, guys, it's like people always freak out. They freak out whoever wins.
Right.
But you gotta remember, the policies, these things move slowly. Right. I mean, people think overnight everything's going to change. It's going to be totally different all of a sudden. It's not totally different all of a sudden. Typically, it takes years just to get the little bit of legislation through half the time. And so, it doesn't, to me, I mean, if Harris would have won, we just would have gone another direction. If Trump wins, we go in a different direction. It's kind of it is what it is. I don't get upset either way. I mean, I guess. And I don't necessarily get happy either way either. Well, people ask me, are you happy? Are you sad about it? I'm kind of I guess I'm both. I'm not really. I'm not really
my 401k was happy. That's what I vote with my wallet sometimes. Right. I have to say that.
Right.
I'm not going to deny that I think that certain things are for me, Now, if I was a woman, I was concerned about women's rights, I would probably be passionate in some other way.
Right.
And I get it. I guess my thing is I empathize with a lot of different people.
Yeah, exactly.
Whether they vote like me or act like me or talk like me or look like me, I tend to have empathy for everybody.
Right. I mean, to be honest,
I wish everybody could win in some form or fashion.
I was expecting a Harris win. I was expecting it. Yeah. I just thought to myself, if Harris wins, then it's 4 more years of what we've got, and so that's okay with me.
I will say this, and this is just the gut wrenching honest to me, and I don't think that. I think a lot of people had their minds made up months ago. You could have had this election, but the swingers that were really undecided, when they asked her, what would you have done differently? And she said nothing. And I think if she would have been honest and said, you know what, I wasn't the president. I went along with my boss. But there are some things I would definitely do. I'm going to lock down the border when I get in. I'm going to do this. It's going to be a little different. I'm going to really try to lower these things and do all this. I think if she could have been really honest, and maybe she was being honest. Maybe she didn't want to do anything. Maybe she just, I think, though, when people heard that, they thought, and let's be honest, 79% of Americans did not like the way the country was going. Mm-hmm. And so, if you're in that, she kind of was in a hole to begin with, in my opinion. And then, I think that she did as well as she did is still pretty amazing with 100 days of campaigning. Trump's been campaigning for 8 years. Right. Or 7 years, or whatever it's been.
I want to just cover some live chat. YouTube Punk says, I think overall cable media is dead except for these major events. Why isn't Biden on the ballot trending on Google, I guess is what he said. I think Harris would have been status quo, which is actually good overall, but not the change people want. Exactly. I think Harris just would have been the status quo. And that's why I was thinking a lot of people liked it. You were saying 79% of people wanted a change, and I guess
they didn't like the way the country was going.
And I think after the fact, it's easy to say that the people voted like that. But up until this point, I was really thinking that people, not that they were happy with the status quo, but they were just like, okay, the status quo.
But don't expect just because let's say you like Trump, don't expect your groceries to go back to what they were 4 years ago. They're never going back. Yeah. You're never going back. Once something happens, it ain't going backwards. You might slow inflation down, but I don't see deflation happening.
Right. YouTube Mike says, I expected a Harris win too. So like me, I like Tim Walz. And Tim Walz seems like a decent guy. I bet we're going to see him 4 years from now. I wouldn't be surprised if we see him in those Democrat primaries. And there's a lot I think you'd have a lot of support from people if he ran.
People second guess though. Why didn't she? If she would have chose the governor of Pennsylvania, she would have probably won Pennsylvania. Yeah. I think she would have won Pennsylvania. So, but I don't know.
I really wish,
and I liked him.
I really wish she would have picked Josh Shapiro.
That was my opinion. Nothing against Tim Walz personally.
And here's the thing,
politically,
right? We knew she needed Pennsylvania.
Yeah,
we knew she needed Pennsylvania.
She had to get
if she would have had Josh Shapiro, she would have had Pennsylvania.
I feel like she would have got it. Whoever wins Pennsylvania wins it all.
Yep.
And I think it was surprising that several of the states, she almost lost Minnesota, which was Tim Walz's home.
Yeah.
I don't know. He's kind of an eccentric type of guy. But for all that, he's not one of my favorite politicians, but just listening to him, sometimes I can really like Bernie Sanders. Yeah. He's kind of funny, and he says off-the-wall stuff, but sometimes he says the truth.
He's a good politician.
He says the truth sometimes in a way that I get even people that are on my side of the aisle. I like people that, I have a friend of mine, we disagree on a certain issue, and she said, well, let me give you my perspective. And I'm like, you know what? Thank you. We could both say, well, I don't feel like it. I don't feel like she showed me when I put on her glasses and looked at it, it made a little difference for me. Now I still have my opinion too, but gosh, what happened to the days when we can just have opinions and it not be such a big deal.
Right, exactly. YouTube Punk says, I don't think there is a historical precedent for a VP helping to carry a state. That is true, but I mean, Josh Shapiro is very well liked in Pennsylvania. And
Yeah.
I do think that he's liked well enough that, and it was close in Pennsylvania. It was close. I think it would have been enough to give her the state if Josh Shapiro would have been VP. Not saying I didn't like Tim Walz. I just think that if I would have been making the call, I probably would have gone Josh Shapiro. And it's weird that she announced Tim Walz in Pennsylvania. Because it kind of made me think like she was gonna pick Josh Shapiro and changed her mind at the last minute and went Tim Walz. Yeah. And Josh Shapiro came out and did kind of a warm up for that, which was really interesting. So
let me ask you this: have you ever got down to vote and you felt like you needed to pick somebody and you didn't know any of those candidates, but you felt like you had to pick one,
right? And
maybe you saw a R or a D or an I next to their name, but have you ever just looked and thought, oh, Springfield, I think I heard of them, right? You can't tell me that if I've done it on every ballot of every year. Judge Wapner, he sounds familiar. Judge Judy, that sounds real familiar. I heard that name. We all do it.
It's true.
And so I think this is just, I don't know, I'll probably get myself in trouble. I bet there are people that think Ted Cruz is Hispanic just because of his last name.
Possible.
Right?
Yeah.
So there are people that would go, oh, Cruz. My cousin's a Cruz. I know people do that. So I think if you had a name that they already knew, that they already recognized,
Josh Shapiro,
I think that they would have picked, I think there would be some. Maybe not enough to swing everything, but maybe a significant number would have picked him, just because they like him.
Let's see. The thing is everybody thinks the president is the one who pulls them out of debt, strife, and hardships. That's up to the individual. The president is not a savior. Each individual has to work. That's absolutely correct. So, the government does its part, but we have to do our parts too, right?
That's right. And that's why I said, what would we have been disappointed or sad or whatever? No, I don't think so. 'Cause I would have got up and went to work the next day just like I did, and I would have worked just as hard. I didn't have any more spring in my step or any more gloom in my step. You know what I'm saying? It's just, like I said, I know people that were just, and you see some of it and you're like, I'm not going to spike the ball or cry either one. I just think that because I know it hurts my heart that there's always a half of the country that's so disappointed.
I just want to move on.
Yeah, we can even move on past this point.
To be honest with you, I was praying more for the answer to be definitive than I was for my candidate to
I agree
to win. To be honest
with
you,
you, I did not want it to be 15 days of counting votes and lawsuits and
right. So, and I feel like it's definitive enough.
3 a.m. trucks pulling up with, oh, wait, we got a whole bunch of trucks full of ballots.
Right.
I don't know. I'm just
glad. So I'm glad it was definitive. That was, like I said, that was the main thing I was praying for. So let's move on. Let's get this stuff rolling, and we'll figure it out over the next 4 years, I guess. So it is what it is. But anyway, I think we'll leave it there.
Yeah, let's
leave it there. So
we didn't even get into much everything else, but it's late. Thank you guys for.
Well, I was gonna say we'll finish up what we're doing, but we'll leave the election stuff there.
We're going.
That was more than what I was thinking of.
More than me. Thank you.
Exactly. But let's talk any sports you want to talk real quick. So let's transition to that. Any sports you want to discuss?
The Cowboys are horrible.
Cowboys suck. We can move on.
Yeah, we don't even want to talk about them.
Mavericks are doing good, so I'm watching the Dallas Mavericks, of course. NBA has been fantastic.
Yeah,
if you're not watching, good. And then we have the mid-season.
Who is it that's undefeated? The Cavaliers or something?
So,
like wow, 9-0. I'm like, I got to start. Really, that's one thing I'm looking at my son living there, going to some more basketball games.
Absolutely. And then Stars have been doing pretty decent. We're keeping up with NHL. Let's talk about World Series real quick, because I watched almost all the games. I loved it.
Really?
Los Angeles versus the Yankees.
I know you're not a Yankees fan.
Not a Yankees fan.
But you're not a huge Dodger fan either.
Look, if I'm ambivalent about the Dodgers. Anybody but the Yankees is probably my stance. And so I was pulling hard for the Dodgers.
Okay.
And dude, I did not see Game 5 coming. I thought Dodgers in 6. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. And then Game 5, so I'm cleaning up and stuff, and I see that Yankees are up by 5. Mm-hmm. I'm like, okay, well, we're going back to Los Angeles, Game 6, all this kind of stuff. And then the fifth inning happened, and the Yankees had 3 errors and 5 unearned runs in the inning. Guys, if you're in a World Series game and you give the other team 5 unearned runs,
in one
you're
inning,
probably going to lose.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just telling you. Like, this is, okay? And so when that happened, I could not believe.
So
I could not
who
believe.
was your MVP? Who would you think best
Freddie
player?
Freeman. I would have given it to Freddie Freeman by far.
You can't. I mean,
I was watching game 1 where he
Just
hit the grand slam, and then he hit a home run in the next 4
I'm thinking
games?
every kid in the world is thinking, I'm gonna,
Freddie Freeman. I want to be
Freddie
Freddie
got
Freeman.
to do what everybody wanted to do, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah, so, I mean, it was a fun World Series to watch. I mean, 5 games is short. I felt like I wish they would have milked it a little bit more. I want a little bit more World Series there. Hey, but we won in 5 games, so I can't complain.
But you heard that about Aaron Judge gonna officiate New Year's Eve since he's so good at dropping the ball.
I heard this. Yeah,
I really was disappointed that he
Aaron
didn't play
Judge
very
is a
good.
great outfielder.
Yeah.
That had a really bad miss. Okay, Josh Hamilton is a really great outfielder that on the last day of the season in what was that 2012 had a really bad miss. Okay,
Yeah.
so I mean you can't judge a guy by the one moment. Okay, I will tell you that. So
But boy, it's hard.
don't judge by the one moment.
It's hard though, man. When
And
you're like,
don't judge
you
Garrett
gotta-
Cole by not covering first base, for
Right.
goodness sake. Okay. But anyway, that was the worst way you could have ended a season, though. But it reminds me in 2016, Tim, when we played the Toronto Blue Jays, and Elvis Andrews had like 2 or 3 errors in that game. Same kind of thing. Guys sometimes just in the moment lose the ability to do the things that they've done all season, and that's what happened to the Yankees.
It's just bad luck.
Yeah, and bad luck too. Baseball. That's the way baseball go. Ron Washington. So, but I enjoyed it immensely. I enjoyed the World Series. I am sad the baseball season is over. I love baseball.
Yeah.
And I am looking forward to it coming back. Let's see. Any other like sports thoughts, college football thoughts, anything like that?
You know, it's going to be interesting with the 12
I think one
player
team
system.
won that Red rivalry.
That wasn't much of a rivalry.
Yeah, I was about to say. Now
But
we
you
got
know-
knocked off. We got knocked off. I'll say that.
Fired the offensive coordinator and scored 56 points the next game. So
Yeah,
what do you
exactly. It is what it is.
I mean, I don't know.
Let's see. Let's talk about movies and stuff real quick. I got to bring the kids in here for at least a second.
Okay.
I'll tell you what. I'm going to bring them in now. Because the
Let's
kids, they've been wanting to come in here. So.
Tell them to come on in.
Yeah. Hang on. Are they in bed? You guys want to come in? Yeah. Real quick. Okay, they're coming. You want to come in? Yeah. Okay. Yes, the World Series is worth watching every year, like Delusional says. So, Delusional said good discussion. He said, a lot of great just discussion. I like talking politics where we're not all yelling at each other. I think it's fantastic.
Like I
Come
said,
on.
it's
You want to come sit in my lap? You can come sit here. You want to get over a little bit?
Yeah.
Tim.
Sure.
I'll get my daughter in on the stool and you're fine. I think you may be fine. We'll just kind of scoot over like this. Okay, come here.
oh
my goodness.
Hey guys.
Okay, you want to come sit on the stool? Let's see if we can get you in the shot. Can you can scoot it
there?
over? Oh, there she is. Okay, this is.
Me,
What's your name?
Alex,
Alex, and this is.
Olivia,
Hello. So these are my kids, and you were what for Halloween?
Hulk,
What? Hulk. And who are you?
Envy.
And did you guys get enough candy? We talked about Halloween earlier. Lots of candy? Okay. We've already had our baths around here because it's getting close to bedtime. Oh, we got an hour, right?
Yeah.
Okay. We're talking about movies and TV shows. What have you guys been watching? We watched Crown Jewel.
The Wild Robot.
Yeah, The Wild Robot. We did watch The Wild Robot. What about Crown Jewel? We watched WWE Crown Jewel. Who won? Who won? You guys want to talk about? Oh,
You.
nope. Nobody wants to talk?
I was like
So,
a camera shot now.
What was your favorite match
I don't know.
on
Cody
Crown
and
Jewel?
Gunther.
Okay, Cody and Gunther. What was your favorite match?
Cody and Gunther.
Right, Cody Gunther. Yeah, you like those? They're big Cody fans. They like Cody Rhodes, Dusty Rhodes' son. Still has the title right now. So, and Crown Jewel took place in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. Too.
Oh wow.
So, okay, what do you guys want to say? You want to say something? Want to talk about something? Movies, TV shows? No?
Y'all can wave.
You can wave. Okay, we'll talk about that, and you guys can sit here. So, Tim, I saw a movie that you had been wanting to see. I didn't know if you saw it or not. Reagan.
I
got to see it. It's on demand, so you can go
Okay.
get it now. I think it's $15 for a rent.
Yeah, I'm kind of waiting for it to hit the $5.99.
Okay.
amount.
Super good.
Okay.
Really good. And Dennis Quaid
nails it.
Nails it. And it reminds me of what we did tonight, and the fact that it was a time where people who disagreed could talk to each other civilly and even have maybe a little bit of humor at their positions and things, and still enjoy and basically enjoy enjoy debate, in other words. And Reagan was just a special person that way. He was able to get along with people even if he disagreed with them. He's able to talk with them. And the movie, guys, I'm gonna be real here. I teared up at the end. They play Country Roads, a different version, not the John Denver, but like a version of that. And it has him riding off into the sunset on a horse and talking about his dementia. Yeah. And it got me hard. So I mean, so
be prepared for the ending, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I mean, regardless of what you think about Reagan as a president, he was a kind-hearted man, and that's what the documentary really shows.
Good.
So you should watch it just for that. Let's see. Delusional says he watched The Descendants on Disney with his 8-year-old daughter. Somebody I know likes Descendants around here. Who's that?
Me.
Yes. So my daughter is 11, Delusional, and she likes Descendants too.
What's that about?
You want to tell Mr. Tim what Descendants is about?
Yeah.
So we've seen all the Descendants movies, 1, 2, 3, and The Rise of Red. So in fact, one of the people who came trick-or-treating with us was from
Red.
Descendants.
Red.
Was she Red? No, she wasn't Red.
Oh, Mal.
She was Mal. So we had a trick-or-treater who dressed up as Mal. He said it was the latest one. So you watched The Rise of Red. When we were out trick-or-treating, there were a lot of kids dressed up like Red. A lot of kids. She was very popular. But Descendants is like the kids of the Disney villains and
they're
characters.
descendants.
Yeah, they're descendants.
Okay.
So it's like the descendants of the villains and the heroes and heroines. And so it's really interesting. It's really good. Olivia's seen all of them multiple times and really likes them. So that's a good one, though.
Who would Red's parents be then?
Yeah, who was Red's? Queen of Hearts?
Queen of Hearts, yeah.
Queen of Hearts.
Okay.
From Alice in Wonderland?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So
there you go. So, so that one is good. Let's see. YouTube Punk says, I thought Crown Jewel was a Netflix show. No, Crown Jewel as in WWE. We watch wrestling around here, right, kids?
Yeah.
Yep. So there we go. Let's see. Me and Mom watched The Diplomat, the second season, which is on.
I like the first one. I need to watch that.
Yeah, so we watched that. It is very good. We've
Very
already
good.
finished it. 6 episodes. Do it quick. We've been watching Ghost on CBS, Abbott Elementary on ABC, The Franchise on Max. Have you seen The Franchise?
No.
The Franchise is a show about making a Marvel movie, but it's not Marvel. It's like in a different universe, I guess.
Okay.
So it's basically all of the politics that go on behind these kind of big screen superhero movies. So like you follow the associate producer as he's trying to keep this movie from going off the track. Okay. And so like as you can imagine, everything goes wrong, right?
Okay.
And so it's very interesting. And then I did start watching Agatha all along, but I quit like halfway through the second episode. I just couldn't do it. I don't know. I just didn't appeal to me. So let's see. Delusional says his daughter was Bridget.
Oh, Bridget.
Who's Bridget?
That's the Queen of Hearts.
The Queen of Hearts.
Yeah.
Oh, so she has 2
Fred's
kids?
sister?
No, she.
Oh, that is the Queen of Hearts.
Yeah.
Okay,
Oh.
Bridget is the Queen of Hearts. So they have different names. Like they have their actual names.
Oh, okay.
So,
Well,
okay.
interesting.
There we go. So you watched Woman of the Hour, which is something I did want to watch too, and I haven't got around to.
That's very good.
Is it good?
It's really good.
It is directed by what's her name from Pitch Perfect. What's her name? I see her face.
I can see her face
Because she's in it too,
yeah.
but she directed it as well. I can't think of it. But I've seen the previews. I have not seen it.
And it is, and I was worried sensitive areas of it would be too graphic or something.
Okay.
She handles it. It's kind of like one of those where they cut the scene, and so you're not going to just be like, oh my gosh, but it really tells a story and it really makes you think. And so she did a great job in that movie.
Very nice. What is her name? Golly. Anna Kendrick. Thank you.
Anna Kendrick.
Thank you, Delusional. So Anna Kendrick for sure.
It is really good.
Okay. Well, I think that's it. Are we ready to shut it down? You kids want to talk about anything? No?
Yeah, we're ready.
They keep telling me they want a YouTube channel.
Oh, okay.
I say they're too young.
Well, what are y'all going to talk about?
I know. You
Y'all
got to be able
have
to
a
talk about
discussion.
something. Not going to talk about anything. We're just gonna.
They may not watch it if you don't talk about anything.
I put 2,000 balloons into a house, and watch what happens when I pop them all. Is that what your YouTube channel is gonna be? Am I right? Am I right? Yes.
No.
No. What?
I would
what
watch it.
Exactly. Well, what are you gonna? You got to do something for your things. I hooked up a gas engine to like a weed eater, and this is what happened, right? Of course, they already have gas engines, but a car engine. I hooked up a car engine to a weed eater, and this is what happens. Is that the kind of videos you guys are gonna do?
Yeah.
No. Watch me build this cool thing in Minecraft.
Maybe you
Is
could
that
eat something really.
No.
Maybe you could eat something really crazy, and
That's
people
true,
would
too.
watch it.
No.
it? What?
LOL.
Oh, you see, they're reading the live chat. It's like, hey. Okay, so live chat, like no bad words or anything like that. Okay. YouTube Punk says it's a show about nothing.
Yeah.
You guys can do Seinfeld.
Yeah.
So, well, if you want a YouTube channel, I think you need to come up with something to talk about.
Vote for Garfield.
Vote for Garfield. Okay, Garfield is.
Vote for Garfield.
Okay, Garfield is your vote for president.
Yeah. Vote
So-
for Garfield.
There you go.
My president vote is Garfield.
Okay, your presidential vote goes to
Actually, it's
Garfield.
gonna be Hulk.
It's gonna be for the Hulk. You vote for Hulk for president.
Yeah.
You sound-
Garfield for president.
I don't know. I think the Hulk wouldn't have very much patience. I'm just
It's
guessing.
okay. We get pizza every day from Garfield.
Pizza
Yeah.
every day. I
Yeah,
thought
Garfield.
it was
Ooh, it's
lasagna.
8:09.
Wow.
We
Okay,
gotta go.
well, hey, we gotta go. You guys want to say bye?
Bye.
You can say bye.
Y'all can say bye.
Say
for
we'll
us.
see you next month, December live show, episode 94. Okay, everybody say bye.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Okay, everybody. Good night.
Thank y'all.
Good to have y'all around. Great discussion. We'll see you. We'll talk with you and at you next month. I gotta hit the mouse. I'm getting squeezed out. Bye, everybody. Hang on. Hey. I'm moving my mouse. There we go.